How are you guys doing tonight? Welcome to another episode of Pizza Punk. I guess you would call this live pizza. Actually, it's live pizza. We're serving you live pie right on the air. What is the air? It's the YouTube channel. It's kind of jonesing to go live. We did go live on Tuesday. We had a fantastic show with Mr. Jim, the Static Age drummer of the Misfits. If you are a Misfits fan, if you like poring over nerdy Misfits band minutia, go check out that episode. It might be in my top 5 favorite episodes since we started broadcasting in March of 2020. I really, really like that episode. Go check that out. But normally on Pizza Punk, we have musicians, but we also have had some filmmakers. We had James, who directed SLC Punk. We had, who else did we have that was a filmmaker? We've had a couple filmmakers on. And tonight I am really, really excited to bring you Onur Tukel on the show. He's kind of like, I don't even know how to describe this guy. He's like this completely different kind of animal that is a filmmaker. I first became aware of him with he made a vampire film called Summer of Blood, which I saw. I forget, maybe it was on Netflix or it was streaming somewhere. And I watched that, and that's what put me on his radar. And then I started to realize that I guess I had seen, he made this film, or he co-wrote this film called, I don't even know how you pronounce this, Septian, something like that, which I bought at a Blockbuster in 2013, sight unseen. Last time I was ever in a Blockbuster video. They were liquidating. And I was like, this cover is crazy. I need to check this out. And this dude, he just churns out movies, man. Like, I blink my eyes and like every second he has a new film out. Like, I'm like, wait, but didn't he just make another movie? I'm like, what is his secret sauce? And I've listened to him a little bit in interview, and just really sort of been blown away by his process. And it's definitely something that I want to learn more about. So I reached out, I invited him to come on the show. He is very generously and graciously giving us some of his time. And hopefully we'll learn a couple of 2-3 things about how to make movies and, get out there and do your thing. And he doesn't know this yet. He can actually hear me right now because he's in the digital green room backstage. But I want to set the precedent right off the bat. I'm going to ask him our pizza question. So we're gonna start off with that, or at least get that percolating in his head. I should have told him before the show, and now I'm just surprising him with homework that he wasn't intending. He wasn't intending homework on the show, but now there's homework. I mean, it's terrible. It's terrible. But let's bring him out. Bring him out. Hey, come on, let's go. Come on. Hey, get out of there. He likes, we have a large spread in the digital green room. Hey, whoa. Hey, what's up, man? How are you?
I'm good, Jeff. How are you?
I am fantastic. And I am so glad that you could join me on my show. It's an honor and a pleasure to have you here. Truly.
No, it's my honor, man. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for asking me to come on the show.
Oh yeah. Totally. So can
I ask you something real quickly? Do you
normally, go ahead.
Because you've got such a great voice, just hearing your intro, just such a presence. Do you normally before COVID, were you doing your podcast in person with people in the same room, or was it always like this? Was it always a web podcast?
So I had a YouTube channel. It was fledgling. It used to be monetized, and then it got demonetized in the great adpocalypse of 2018, which I won't go into, but it was because of this idiot who filmed something in a Japanese forest that begins with an S, if you know what I mean. Can't say that word on YouTube because they will sort of bury you. But if you know what I'm talking about, that kind of forest, that kind of haunted forest, you know what I'm saying?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's a forest where people go to end things, that kind of thing. That kind of forest. Yeah. Well, in any case, it changed the whole landscape, and I became very disinterested in YouTube. And then I told you what happened March 8th, 2020 off air. And right after that, on March 20th, I started just going live on YouTube, which I had never done in my life.
Yeah.
I started doing it, and people started watching. Very small little audience, tiny little, And slowly over the last 2 years, I have become a voracious podcaster because I never shut the fuck up. Like I literally never stop fucking talking. And I found that I just love, I talk about anything that I find interesting, which of course makes you less successful on YouTube because YouTube wants you to do the same thing over and over and over again. And I'm like, no, this is a channel. My last name is Frumess. I'm going to talk about Frumess things. And even if it hurts me, I'll just, because this is what makes me show up every day. And, last year I was uploading almost every single day. I was doing this. I guess I'm in the, Malcolm Gladwell, the outlier principle, right? So I'm in my 10,000 hours right now with this.
Oh, that's great. You're an expert.
Yeah, I just love doing it, man. I love freaking doing it.
And
this
beautiful.
mic is actually what I use to do location sound recording because, when you're making micro budget films, you have to wear a lot of hats. And so, you shoot, you do your own sound, you do your own thing. And I just fashioned it into, I got a Premix 3 right up here, sound device, really nice sound recorder with some cashmere preamps. And it's just sounding really, really velvety and creamy. And I just make it work, so.
And music is your main focus. That's your main love. That's who you interview on the show, musicians mostly?
I interview musicians mostly, but you know what it is? I'm a filmmaker, first and foremost. I identify and consider myself a filmmaker. I've slowly turned into a sort of a YouTuber podcaster guy. But I don't follow sports at all. Sports is like a language I don't understand. Music is my sports.
Yeah.
My pitchers, my football receivers are guitar players. And I'm not a musician at all, but I have, I can talk music. I love musicians. I toured with a punk band. We went from Moscow to California, all back and forth. Yeah, we did the whole thing. And
what were you doing? So wait, road manager, groupie?
No, I was a videographer that was doing a documentary that never ended up coming out. Shot like 4 terabytes of footage that is just rotting away on hard drives.
Because of copyright issues or something like that?
It just did not materialize. The whole thing did not materialize. There were things did not work out with the producer, the co-producer, I should say, with the project. And it just ended up really going nowhere. But I have always had a foot. And the other thing I've been working on slowly is you're interviewing me. I'm supposed to be interviewing you.
Oh, so I mean, I'm just. No,
it's okay. It's okay.
I don't want to bore the people that know all about you, who already know about your background and stuff like that. I just find it fascinating and interesting. And
no. I will tell you this though. What got me started with all of this stuff was I'm a big fan of the band The Misfits. Misfits, Star Wars nerds, right? Like people that are obsessed with Star Wars. Well, in punk rock, I would say that Misfits fans are the Star Wars nerds of the music world. Like we obsess over, what dial did he have turned up on his amp in 1978 when he was playing Max's Kansas City, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's really the bread and butter of the show, and what we just dive into minutia. We warn people, we say, look, we're talking about minutia. If you like minutia, if you like semantics, you're going to love these pedantic discussions about just the tiniest details. And it's just sort of expanded from there. But I was making a documentary about them. I was just interviewing anybody who would talk to me about this band that literally does not want documentaries made about them. Another reason why it's taken so long to sort of get this project in the can. So I have like 100 hours of interviews, and I've interviewed so many, we just had, actually, as I was saying before he came on, we had the Static Age drummer on last night, old friend, actually the first interview I had done. So I do have a background in interviewing and then doing the YouTube thing. And now I've started making too much money to stop, but not enough money to not like be looking for a day job. Yeah, so it's terrible, terrible place to be in, where you're like, I can't stop. And I don't want to stop because I like who I am when I do this. Just the way, when you're making a film, I'm sure you love when you're in your element making a movie, right? Like there's nothing better in life.
Absolutely. Yeah, without a doubt.
I want to turn the conversation around you, and I'm sure there's going to be talking over each other as these podcast things go, and the latency issues with the connector. Blah, 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 blah. So if that happens, my apologies. I want you to think about this question while I ask you the next question. This is the thesis question for the whole show. The idea for Pizza Punk originally, yes, was to order a pizza and then, meet musicians backstage and eat a whole pizza with them and then talk about stuff. That's what Pizza Punk was. But then COVID happened. So I was like, oh, we'll just do it online. The question is Pizza Punk? And if pizza is punk, why is pizza punk? And if pizza is not punk, why is pizza not punk? It is a subjective question. There is no wrong answer. Let it marinate for a minute. And I'm going to ask you this question. I've looked on your IMDb and I've seen, I was familiar with some of your films. Some of your films I was not familiar with. I'm familiar with more of the new ones because I'm connected to you on Facebook. And I see you post every once in a while, and it seems like I blink my eyes and you have a new film out every 2 seconds. And I'm like insanely I'm super stoked for you, but I'm also super jealous and blown away and jealous in a good way. Wow, how does he do it? It's incredible. How he just does this stuff. But there's some spottiness early on from 1997. And that's assuming that everything is listed here on IMDb. From 1997 to 2007, there is, not as much stuff. And then it seems right around Richard's wedding in 2012, you just like a train, chugga, 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 choo, choo, full steam ahead, slinging movies. How did that happen? What's going on there? How did that happen? Yada, yada, yada.
So I was making a lot of films in North Carolina before I moved to New York. Yeah, I moved to New York in 2010, Halloween of 2010. The decade before, I was living in Wilmington, North Carolina, making independent films and shooting mainly on 16 millimeter film and 35 millimeter film. And I made 3 movies in the span of 6 years. It took me about 2 years to make a film. When I was 24, I made a movie. 26, I made a movie. Ended up selling that movie, Drawing Blood, Sergio Lapel's Drawing Blood, to Trauma. I'm sure you've heard of Trauma. You must.
Oh, I know. My formative years. Yes, of course.
Did you ever work on it? Well, that's another question. So Trauma. I sold my second movie to Trauma, Sergio Lapel's Drawing Blood. Made my third movie on 35 millimeter, Ding-a-Lingless, and then I ended up making a fourth movie called The Pigs, which was a really, really bad experience. I had an awful time making it. I lost my nerve and I lost my confidence. And I just spent a decade not making movies because I didn't have the confidence. I mean, I made it between 2000 and 2010. I made one movie, but it did not go well. And I lost confidence in myself. You know what I mean? I'm an insecure. I'm like most artists. I'm pretty insecure about what I'm doing. But I've learned to embrace. I've learned to embrace the things. I embrace my style of filmmaking and have confidence in my style of filmmaking. But I'm always insecure. But I do love my work. But it was just a bad experience. If you're going to make a movie, it has to be a good experience. And it was kind of a traumatic experience for me. It was it was probably the worst 3 weeks of my life. I mean, it's relative. I mean, there's people experience, if you have death or sickness, that's a horrible thing. Me going through a bad experience of being on a film set for 3 weeks is nothing. It's privilege problems. You know what I mean? It's not a big deal. And it was all my fault because I was an asshole. And I've still been an asshole in movies before, but I lost my confidence. Long story short, when I moved to New York in 2010, I was in a pretty dark period of my life. And the summer before I moved here, I worked on that Septian movie, which I'm so happy and excited that you bought a DVD of in a Blockbuster. That makes me so happy that
9 years ago, I saw this cover and I was like, I'm just going to buy this because this looks crazy. And I watched the film. I'll be honest, I don't remember much about what I had seen. It was like a lot. There's a lot of stuff going on, but it was nutty, man. You used to be able to find some cool stuff in Blockbuster.
Yeah, I think that's a fucking brilliant movie. I wish I'd made it. I didn't. I co-wrote the story.
You wrote some stuff, right?
I co-wrote the story with Robert Longstreet and the director Michael Tully, and Michael Tully took our kind of emails that we all had together, and he wrote this beautiful script and made this amazing film on 16 millimeter. A bit of minutia about that movie. The DP of that movie is a director named Jeremy Saunier, who's gone off to make.
Oh my God! He shot that.
He shot that movie, and
That's nuts.
And then Michael Tully's had a very good independent film making career. Jeremy fucking blew the fuck up,
Jeremy blew the fuck up. Wait, this was before he made Blue
Ruin. Yeah, he had made a movie a few years before called Murder Party, which I've never seen.
I've seen it.
I think it's a very much, and I think Blue Ruin was a very low budget movie too. But they
very low budget, very creative. Murder Party is a very creative film.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
He's got a great sense of humor and a great, he loves violence, and he's just a brilliant filmmaker. But
Yep.
then Jeremy, that movie Blue Ruin went off to Cannes, and I think it played
Oh,
Sundance
man.
next year. I mean, like it started
He caught the wave. He caught the indie darling wave when something, it really, that mentality that goes back to the 90s, right? It's like the Kevin Smith, Robert Rodriguez sort of like it's really one of the last films to do that too. Blue Ruin is one of the last genre films to do that, because that's what all filmmakers in the aughts going to film school and stuff were sort of their aspirations. The ones that were not wanting to work in like the Hollywood system, their aspirations were based on the mythology, these legends of what happened in the 90s with filmmakers like Quentin Tarantino, Kevin Smith, Robert Rodriguez, the lottery ticket sort of situation where you send off your film and it gets discovered at the film festival, it gets sold for 6 figures, 7 figures, whatever. And that's what jumpstarts your career. And then every filmmaker in the next decade was like, that's what I'm going to do. I got the Panasonic. Remember the Panasonic HVX 24p. It was a progressive scan. It was like, it's got a filmic look. I'm going to go out, make my micro budget film. It's going to do great.
That's a great camera still, that was late 90s. Really.
For sure.
Well, I got to tell you, so I got to tell you, I'm beholden to all those dudes you mentioned in the 90s, and including
me too.
Whit Stillman, you mentioned Kevin Smith, Richard Linklater, Neil LaBute, all those guys they were making their early movies on 16 millimeter for very low budget. Slacker was made for $25,000. Clerks was made for $35,000. El Mariachi
$27,500.
Is that what Clerks was made for?
Yeah.
In the Company of Men, I think, was made for $40,000. Neil LaBute's first movie, and
what's that guy's name? McCool. One Night at McCool's, McLean's, McCool's.
Oh
Ed Burns.
Ed Burns,
$10,000.
of course. Yeah, Ed Burns.
And you know what else too? There's a fetish. There's a fetish, and I will be the first one to admit I had this fetish too, and the reason why I had the fetish is because I was obsessed over this notion, because I realized this is the only way I was going to make a movie, and it's the notion of people equate low budget, or the lower your budget, and if you're able to pull off a feature at a low budget, that makes you automatically good, or that automatically means something. Because there's like the feature club. If you can make a feature film, it's like it validates you, or it sort of it venerates and validates you in a way. Like a lot of people can successfully make a short film. It is a whole nother animal to make a feature-length film. And I think every filmmaker, and I'm speaking very generally about a lot of people, and I really don't honestly know, but like I'd imagine like a lot of filmmakers, you ask yourself this question. I ask myself the question, do I have it inside of me to be able to get to a feature-length film? And the notion of being able to do it, seeing that like Robert Rodriguez made a film for $7,000 and going and reading his journal, that amazing Rebel Without a Crew that we all read.
Yeah, I read that.
And just going, do I have what it takes? Do I have the juice? And it becomes this obsession over this micro budget obsession of like micro budget means that, or automatically it's good if it's a feature and it's micro budget because I was able to accomplish this thing, But you are, it's incredible. And you are doing it too. You're doing it on film. And the other thing too is people always say about, Robert Rodriguez, he did it for $7K. Yes, he did it for $7K, but then it got picked up and they put $2 million into what everybody saw. Nobody saw that the $7,000 version of that film, which was
of course. So that's the case in a lot of movies that get picked up at Sundance or something, is they put more money into it to give it a big soundtrack or a proper color correction sound mix. Yep. I tell you though, making movies on film, I wish I could go back to making movies on film. It's just a little, it's not about the money so much these days. It's more about the stress. I don't know if I would have the mental fortitude of the stress of shooting something for a day or 2 days, sending it off to the lab, waiting to see the lab report to find out if everything came out in focus.
Oy.
I don't know if I have the mental I'd be able to deal with the stress. I don't know if I could deal with it. I'd want to be able to know that the footage is okay, downloaded, backed up on 2 or 3 drives. Pretty right. I don't know. I'd like to go back and make something on film at some point. I will say, I stopped making films too because I was in North Carolina. I only had I had a few investors who put money into my films, and then when those movies didn't make money, there was really nowhere to go to get to get more movies
You
made.
need
So
a
I
track
really
record. You need a
yeah,
track record.
yeah, and at that time I wasn't putting I put my own money into my first movie. I put about 5,000 of my own money in my first movie. I eventually would put a little bit of money into my vampire film, but when I moved to New York and after we did Septian, I these Canon 7D cameras came out. I don't know if you're the 7D, then it was the
Oh, I know all
5D,
the oh, yes.
Sony FS7.
My film was shot on the 70D, which was a later descendant of that very model. So, yes.
What was it called? It was a 60D or
It was the Canon 70D,
70D, yeah.
which was and what we use and we what we did too, we shot with a we shot on a 30 the whole time we were shooting with a 30 millimeter wide lens, a Sigma, but because it's a crop censored camera, it was more like a 50. It was like your nifty 50 because of that crop factor. And that's essentially, and we shot it completely in camera monochrome, even though it was digital, which was the dumbest thing ever. But I'm not a cinematographer. I don't know anything about lighting or color temperature. And so I figure, oh, well, if everything's in black and white, that's a lot easier to control than if everything is in color. Cause it's like, for some reason, it was like, you get locked in. I'm like, is this shot going to match this shot? I don't know. I don't have like a professional gaffer here to help me to figure this stuff out. I don't have a color card, it's like all this stuff gets, so you just figure out a way to make it work for whatever you're doing. And yes, those DSLRs just revolutionized everything, changed the game.
They did. Not only that, it allowed me to shoot with two cameras, which I'd never done before, and I'd always wanted to shoot with two cameras. I'd shot two cameras a little bit on the movie The Pigs that kind of ended my film career for a decade. But then, and I was like, I didn't really know how to shoot with two cameras. And then I got to New York. I always wanted to make movies in New York, and I thought, let's make something on the streets of New York with two cameras. And so, I was able to get an investor to put in $5K. I put in $5K of my own money on Richard's wedding. And we paid our two camera guys, we paid a sound person, and I paid a producer, and we shot for $10,000 in 7 days on the streets of New York. And I would say at that point, I felt like
that's good production value.
I'd kickstarted, I don't know, this desire to make films again. I kind of lost it. I lost the passion, and I got the passion back. And New York has always been very inspiring to me. So the last decade to be here making films, I just felt very lucky. But it was the 7D, just the aesthetics of the 7D and how fucking mobile they were. They looked like regular still photography cameras. It is a still photography camera. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So to be able to run around New York with those it opened up a whole new world of possibilities.
And no one's batting an eye. No one is batting an eye. They see, especially at that time, they're going, oh, that's just a still camera. And then Escape from Tomorrow came out. They shot that in Disneyland with the 5D.
Yeah, right.
They snuck in. It's like you see these DSLRs. No one's looking at you making Richard's Wedding and going, hey, they're shooting a feature-length film. Do they have a permit? Not that people, they don't really care too much about permits if you're small fry. The boom pole. It's always the boom pole that'll get you into trouble, really.
This movie I just shot. It was my first dolly shot on the streets of New York. I was so excited to do that. I've never done a dolly on the streets before, so it was very, very cool. So let me ask you something. You said you have a movie right now playing at Genre Fest at the Alamo Drafthouse in Virginia.
Yes.
What's the name of that movie?
Yeah, that's Romeo's Distress. That's the feature-length film that I was talking about. We shot in black and white, and we also shot that in New York. We hopped on the Metro North with the Canon 70D. I just stole every shot I could. I was like, all right, now let's do a walk through Grand Central Station. And at that point in time, I was like, oh, we got to do everything in shallow depth of focus because we don't want to get anybody's face in because we're not having them signing like as if it friggin' mattered. But when you're making your first feature, you think about these things like it's super important. So we did this really long one shot tracking shot. And I was like, there are cops standing everywhere. And I'm like, I wonder if they're going to say anything. I purposely didn't bring the boom. I figured we'll do everything and we'll fill in all the sound in post and stuff.
ADR,
and there's no dialogue. It's just a lot of background sound design. That's what I went to school. I went to school for post-production sound design because I wanted to be a filmmaker, but I realized I was like, I got to know as many of these other jobs as possible because even if someone can do the job better than me, I want to be able to have a conversation with every single person that does that job better than me, and at least be able to talk to them and
No,
tell them
that's
what I
smart.
want,
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
smart. Yeah, of
So
course.
so I did that, and I learned how to like mix and do sound design and stuff. And I was like,
Pro
well,
Tools? Did you learn Pro Tools and all that
I did.
stuff?
I learned Pro Tools and OMFs and stuff. And you know what
Wow.
happened? I did not stick with the Pro Tools because the computer behind me, which was my old iMac, it just couldn't handle it. It would shit the bed always. And the workflow we had, because we were editing in Final Cut 7, we did shoot on Bolexes, and we had Moviolas. And when we
Oh
first
yeah,
got into
those,
production,
yeah.
I had the brass plate with the razor blade, and we were
Oh
shooting on
yeah.
black and white reversal. And we're but this is what was so crazy. It was also at a time, there's mini DV cameras. So what we do is we would shoot our rushes on the wall. I would then bring it into iMovie.
Oh wow.
I would edit the rushes exactly to how I wanted the film. And then, so with my laptop over here and a Moviola technology that are literally from the silent era, 1920s,
Yeah.
like, screen, like the little
No, I
Moviola.
edited my first Super 8 short film. It was
So
a
you know all about it.
fan film. Michael Myers Meets His Match. It was a Halloween fan film. We shot Super 8, and I edited, sliced it together with tape and stuff. I've got them somewhere in North Carolina.
It's very meditative,
tiny
right?
little thing. What's that?
It's very meditative. Like, you go into the dark room and like literally hours pass. Like, time just falls away, and it's just you and your craft, and you're making these cuts, and there's nothing more fulfilling than lining up the sprocket holes with your sprocket tape and getting everything nice and flush. And but I had the laptop right there, so it was a little kind of cheating, I guess, but like, it was just a way to be very accurate with the shots,
Why were you shoot? Why were you shooting against the? Oh, I understand. You wanted to get you wanted to see all the footage quickly. That's why you telecined it yourself, right?
We literally telecined it ourselves. But here's the problem. You're shooting, I think Bolexes are 16 frames per second or 18 frames per second, something like that. So what you're doing, and I don't know what the shutter speed is, but then you have mini DV tape at 29.97 frames per second. So you get this weird sort of swelling, glowing effect. Like, it's some sort of shutter thing that goes above my head that I technically don't understand. And it gives the footage this weird, almost organic swelling sort of, it's like the swelling of light, and it's beautiful. It was a great way to sort of view our rushes quickly, cut the film together digitally, see what it's going to look like. And then you would do you basically, what you're doing is you're doing a digital EDL, and then you are conforming yourself, but digitally with a with a non-linear editing system. And what's funny too is, even before they would give us one cartridge. You get one cartridge of 300 feet is 100 feet is 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, right.
So they give us our one cartridge, or sometimes we get two, and they'd be like, there it is. And so I would take all my actors, and we would do the whole thing on DV. I'd shoot the whole movie on DV and edit like before we even shot the film, because I wanted to see, and I try to do the math and be like, okay, that shot has to be that's 7 seconds, and 7 seconds is 24 or whatever, 18 frames times 7 seconds, blah blah blah. Trying to do the math, trying to figure out how I can watch the foot monitor, because when you have a Bolex, for those of people who did not have the privilege and honor of getting to shoot on a Bolex, you still can. It's just really hard to do these days. You're looking at feet. There's no minute. There's no counter that's going.
Right, of course.
Oh, you've shot 7 minutes. But you have to look at the feet and go, oh, I only have this many feet left, and this many feet is this much time. And that creates a very there's sort of these parallels to creativity. And what I mean when I say that is, and this goes back to the idea, and I want to ask you this question, and maybe if it informs your work, how it informed your work. This idea of, if you're shooting on film and you have a finite amount of film stock, how that informs all of the creative decisions that you are making in a scene. And, films are really made, you could say a film is written 4 times, right? The screenplay, during production, because Murphy's Law happens, you got to rewrite the film on the fly in some way, shape, or form. I'm sure in all of your filmographies, How many times have you gotten your script exactly as it was on the page through the edit? Has that ever happened to you? Like 100%?
Yeah, the Ding-a-Linglets, we shot a movie on 35 millimeter, and because we were spending so much money on film and we were shooting on
There
short
you go.
ends.
Short ends, yes. I know short ends.
You have 1,000 feet reels we didn't have, and you have 400 feet reels. We were shooting on reels that were or rolls of film that were 200 feet, 150 feet. You're talking about you're talking about 11 minutes. I don't know how much is 400 feet of 16 millimeter is 11 minutes. I can't remember how much.
I thought 1,000 feet. I thought 1,000 feet is 15 minutes. No,
for 35.
Okay.
For 16,
yeah. Okay, gotcha.
It was 400 feet was 11 minutes, and we shot 35, and I can't remember what the actual ratio is, but I know that when we would shoot 200 feet, it would be gone just like that. And I have long dialogue takes. So we had to be very precise about the shots we wanted. There wasn't a lot of room for coverage and shooting things that were expendable. Like pretty much everything we shot ended up on film. It was a 83-minute movie. We shot about 5 hours of footage. That is nothing. A 1-to-5 ratio is nothing.
Very small ratio. Very small ratio.
When you're shooting a 10, 15 to 1 ratio, easy. With Ding-a-Lingless, it was nerve-wracking and it was exciting and it was thrilling because we were shooting on 35 millimeter, which is what the studio shot on. But I would never do that again. And it was just putting so much stress on the crew and on the loader and the camera loader. But the question was, what was the question specifically?
The question specifically, and I'd love for you to contrast this with shooting digital. How are creative decisions? Well, I went off on a long tangent.
I'm way more prepared with the visuals. I'm way more specific about what I want to shoot, and I don't get, if I'm going to have two people talking at a table for a minute, if I'm shooting 35 millimeter film, I'm probably not going to do standard coverage. I'm going to try to cover it in a oneer so that if I do a 5-to-1 ratio, I'm shooting it 5 times as opposed to 15 times. Close up on one character, close up on the other character. So I probably just way more economical. Did you ever see Stranger Than Paradise? Jim Jarmusch's
Of course. Everything. This is what's amazing. I'm so glad that you brought up that movie. By the way, real super quick, I didn't get to finish the question kind of, but you got the gist. It's the idea of how is your creativity informed by shooting on when you're shooting on film and you have limited supply. But Stranger Than Paradise, I was in awe when I first saw it because I was in awe of all of the composition, and it's a composition that you will see in all the early John Waters films too. These guys did not have a lot of they didn't have a lot of footage. I mean, a lot of film. They didn't have a lot of stock. They didn't have a lot of stock to work with. And so what you see is a lot of what I call, I don't know if maybe this is like actually what it's called, but I always just call it shot economy. And the idea is that you are creating these sort of master shots. Sometimes they're moving master shots, or they're almost like it's kind of like also same thing with Werner Herzog, that movie with Klaus Kinski, Wawrzyniak. It's 16 one shot. It's 16 one shot one scenes basically, but everything like within the frame either gets like the whole frame gets utilized in some point. In the case of Herzog, where he's just moving around the frame, and it essentially becomes like these little mini plays. And it's like,
it was a Strozek. You were talking about Strozek, were you?
The one where he's a soldier, and I just can't pronounce shit.
Okay. Yeah.
Wawrzyniak.
That's
Wawrzyniak.
Wawrzyniak's the name of it.
I'm gonna look it up right now.
I love Stranger Than Paradise for that reason, because it can only be edited basically one way. Every scene is a one-off, one-er shot. There's no coverage within it, and it's about precision. It's about beautiful blocking, beautiful composition, beautiful lighting. And then when you set something up like that, you can just take your time making sure that all the performances are nuanced, and it's something elegant and poetic and beautiful about that, which I love. I always told myself, if I made a 16 millimeter movie again, and one in New York, which I would love to make, it would be in the style of Stranger Than Paradise. It would be just 70 or 65, 70, 75 specific shots a minute to a minute and a half long, and everything very self-contained, you know. And I love that style of filmmaking. I love watching movies like that. There's also a movie called A Pigeon Sat on a Branch Contemplating Its Existence. I don't know if you've seen this movie, but
who made that?
I can't remember the name of the filmmaker, but it's a Polish movie, I believe, and it's just absurdist and wonderful and weird, but the compositions are just, they're each just like a painting, each is like a, you know, Renaissance painting in some way. And you can appreciate, I think also too, it draws you in more because you're not distracted subliminally by the editing, by the cut. You know what I mean? You're actually there in the room with the person. And I love movies that do that. There's so many masterful filmmakers who do that beautifully. But Stranger Than Paradise, I heard Guillermo del Toro do a Q&A once after a screening of The Devil's Backbone. It was a movie he made in the early
2001? 2001?
Might have been 2001 or
was it? That was pre-Chronos. No,
it was after. No, it was post-Chronos.
99. I think it was made in 99.
I was at the 2001 Austin Film Festival with my movie Ding-a-Ling-Lings. He showed it there. So he may have made it in 99 or may have made it in 2000. He may have made it in 2001, but he was showing the movie. And one of the things he talked about was how when we would make a film, it was so specifically designed visually that, you know, it didn't take that long to do an edit of the film, you know, because, you know, it's just, you're cutting everything. If all the scenes are designed a certain way, you just put them in order.
They fit together. They slink together.
Yeah, you just find the best take. Take 4 was better than take 1. Go with take 4. That's the decision that you're making.
I know.
Which is
I
the
love
best
that.
Take.
It
takes a lot of the pressure off the editor in a lot of ways.
Well, yes, but it also, but here's the flip side of that. All of a sudden, your what it eats into is production, in the sense of, or at least it's either rehearsal or production. Because if you're rehearsing the crap out of it, then you're going in there and you're getting it in whatever, a couple of takes. Or if you're doing it in production, that means you're finding the shot in production, which doesn't make any sense if you're shooting on film. If you're shooting digital, however, let's say you take the same approach, but you're shooting digital. What digital affords you is that you literally, you just spill, I don't know what you call it, spill footage, whatever. You just keep rolling, and you can find it organically in the moment of how you want. And I've done that. I have a Blackmagic pocket cinema camera, the 4K, and I've totally done that. And you know, there's also, I would say there are benefits, and I know that I know there's a lot of cinema people out there that like turn their nose up at the idea of shooting super wide and then almost composing shots or sort of like turning shots around to be something different in post-production, because you're shooting so wide. You're shooting like a master, like what David Fincher kind of does. A lot of people call that cheating, but from a micro budget standpoint, not like lazy, like, hey, let's just shoot everything flat and then just, you know, have them all do it and then we'll just punch in. But just in the sense of like, if you are composing shots and being like, you know, we can actually start really small. Like, I love this idea. Something that I've been really getting into is zooming in, like doing oneer stuff, but then just slowly zooming in on really long shots, so that by the time you get to the end of the shot, you are super close up on someone's face and it just creeps up on you. Like, you don't even notice it's happening. I feel like maybe I saw that on Breaking Bad or some like prestige drama show where they like are just doing really cool cinematic stuff. But I just love this idea of, and you can't, I mean, of course you could do that with film if you scan the film, but it's something that really digital really lends itself to at high resolutions, which also comes with its own setbacks as well.
Yeah, if you're shooting 8K or something like that, you can't.
Well, then you
can get away with that a little bit with 4K. You can't really, if you're doing it 1920 by 1080. You know, my movie The Pigs that I made in the early aughts, that was not a good movie. It was so badly shot, and I'm not blaming the DP again. It was my fault. I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't really have the education on lenses and cameras to know what the hell I wanted, and so I wasn't monitoring what we were shooting, and it was not looking good. So in post-production, just to make it seem more interesting, I would do a lot of digital zooms. And we're talking about, you know, 1920 by 1080 HD at that point. So and I would have a 2-minute shot, and I would go really, really close to a close-up, extreme close-up, and the footage would degrade, and it was amazing.
Yes.
And for me, but it was a stylistic choice because it was out of desperation.
You want to know something?
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
No. Please, please, please.
You know, I have been in that. So I just did, there's this thing, it's called the 72-hour Debacle, where you make a film in 72 hours. It's part of the Sick and Wrong Film Festival. And it's just a lot of fun. My community of filmmakers were all those little indie horror genre budget filmmakers. We're all over the place, and we all get together and we do this thing, and we shoot our movies in 72 hours, and then we screen them online together with like a little chat room, just like this. And it's so much fun. It's like a digital film festival, and we're really just making it for the love of making something and showing each other. It's so much fun. And someone said, like, I wonder if you can shoot I wonder if we could shoot a feature in 72 hours. Because here's the thing, you have to make it up from the start. 72 hours.
No, I know. I know about these festivals. Yeah.
Just like it's like 48 hours. But the thing is, you know, Steven, the guy who runs it, he's like, it can be as long as you want. So if you decide for whatever crazy reason that you want to make a 72-hour feature length film, a feature length film in 72 hours, go right ahead. And so this year, somebody posted online that they were toying with the idea of doing a feature-length film. And when I heard that, I was like, I'm going to do a feature-length film in 72 hours. And I'm not going to say anything to anyone. I'm just going to quietly I'm going to quietly do it and then just be like, hey, I did one too. Just for the sake, just for the shits and giggles to like annoy people. Brian Smith is on. He says, hey, it's Onur. You know Brian?
I know Brian. I've been looking at Brian Smith for the last. There's two Brian Smiths. I know
Brian W. Smith, who I also know from Genre. Him and I met at Genre Blast Film Festival.
Brian Smith
at that Alamo.
Tell Brian I said hello, and
he can hear you. He can hear you.
Okay,
He's watching.
Brian Smith. This is Brian Smith, the actor, screenwriter, horror screenwriter. Brian Smith.
I believe so. I believe so.
Host of a podcast called.
He's been on the show. He's been on the show in the
wonderful.
past. Yeah.
So Brian. Brian's in my new movie that I've been editing. I just finished a rough cut today of my new movie. Yeah, and so Brian was also in a movie I made called Black Magic for White Boys. He's fantastic.
Yes,
Brian,
I want to see that one. That's been on the on my to watch list.
I'm really proud of that movie. It's about a magician. It's about 3 subplots of spoiled white men, and it's about a magician who uses magic to get rid of a lot of tenants in this. It's basically a metaphor for gentrification and whatnot. And I'm really proud of it. Brian's great in it, and then Brian's great in the new movie that I'm making, which it's a slasher film called Pancakes. I'm really
Pancakes.
You know what's fun about this new movie?
Good movie posters, by the way. Like Black Magic for White Boys, or whatever the title. I see all your posters, and it makes me really want to watch the film. It captures my imagination. I don't
have a lot of luck with trailers, but the distributors who put my movies out, they don't do a good job with trailers. I have more success with it. I don't want to complain about things, but thank you. I appreciate that, Jeff. Thank you. The new movie, if you like Summer of Blood, this is easily the best thing I've done since Summer of Blood. Cool. It is a horror comedy. And it is vicious. It is funny. It's got a lot to say about lots of different things. I don't want to talk about it too much because it's several months away from being finished. But man, going back to what you're saying about the process of making a film and loving the process of it. Let's go back to
finish your thought. Finish your thought.
The idea, just the process of making films and how lovely and amazing it is. And if you're going to make and I would say about making a feature film in 72 hours, that's a beautiful, great thing if you can pull it off. But also it's very, very self-indulgent, because you're asking people to sit through a 70-minute or 80-minute movie. Yes. It could be horrible. And there's a good chance it's going to be horrible.
Oh, yes.
You know what I mean? But I would assume, did you end up doing it? Did you do it in 70?
So what happened was I saw this guy who said he was going to do it. I was going to do it. I had this idea that I had been percolating a really good, what we all look for if you're trying to make independent micro budget little stuff is what's a movie that can take place in one room? What's a movie that could be really interesting and have like 3 characters? And I figured it out. I figured out the best idea ever, and it's not original. It's Alfred Hitchcock's Rope with a bunch of different things mixed together. Brian Yuzna's The Dentist, which is also sort of Hitchcockian. Just the whole sort of thing of like the audience is watching something that the characters don't know is about to happen. 3 characters in a room, and what I started doing was I started doing rehearsals, and it was going to be improv. I had written out this detailed treatment where we were going to have improv scenes. And just like kind of Curb Your Enthusiasm style.
Yeah, that's how I think that's how you would have to do it. If you're trying to write a script, it's absurd. You write a script, what, in 12 hours? I was like,
no. You have to.
Having a detailed outline, not a detailed outline, but a loose outline of like 80 scenes or 50 scenes, however long it is.
Yep. Sorry, go ahead.
That was your idea. Did you? And so it's what's happening, and who were the 3 characters?
Well, it was basically a love triangle murder plot thing between a therapist. It was a therapist, her husband, and his lover. And it just sort of like a whole thing of the audience, the things I was trying to play with were the things that the hooks, because here's the thing, if you're doing something in one location, it's got to be interesting. You got to have promises that periodically pop up story-wise. So at the beginning, we're going to promise you that we're going to get to this part. And then when we get to this part, there's another promise that you want to see how this finishes out. And I felt like I had all that stuff together, but it just realistically, it was very hard to rehearse. It was not going to, I could already see the tea leaves that it was not going to work out. And I love the idea. It was such an ironclad, like the whole story structure. It was so perfect. It could literally be shot it could be shot like a play. It's that tight. Especially if you had good improv actors. And I said, all right, I'm putting this idea on ice. I'm just going to make a short film. And then on my 36th birthday, which was Thanksgiving Day, which was the start of the 72-hour film festival, I took the carcass of the turkey from my parents' house and brought it home and decided that I was going to do the feature-length film in 72 hours. And I did it right there on my cell phone. I shot a whole feature-length film on my cell phone in 70 hours. And I made this batshit crazy thing. I figured out a way to sort of do it, and just to see if I could do it. And it was a marathon of insanity, and completed it. And I made it. It's an hour and 5 minutes long. So I made the credits 7 minutes long to get to an hour 10. Yeah. And it's an excruciating. It is an excruciating film to watch. It's got I went to New Jersey. I went all over the place. We went to a punk show. I folded the punk show into the plot. We just went everywhere, really made good use of that turkey carcass, just really covered it in coffee grinds, and it was just the best way to spend my birthday. I'm going to shoot a fucking feature-length film by myself in my house at 2:00 in the fucking morning. And that's what I did. And we did it. And it was a lot of fun. And it was absolutely excruciating to watch. And I'm trying to make it a little bit better so I can put it on my YouTube channel and show more people.
Well, I can watch something like that if it's got good acting and good writing. You know what I mean? Like my first movie, House of Pancakes, takes place in a house, and the whole conceit was one house, one location. I was influenced by, of course, a lot of the filmmakers you mentioned from the early 90s, but specifically Tom Noonan's What Happened Was, which is really it's a two-handed.
Tom Noonan, the actor?
Yeah,
he's also a filmmaker?
He wrote I think he's made several movies, but he wrote and directed a movie in the mid-90s called What Happened Was. It's him and oh shit, I can't believe her name's escaping me. She's an actress, Karen Sillis, I think is her name. She was in a bunch of Hal Hartley movies in the 90s. I think she's a brilliant fucking actress, but it's basically those two are just having a date, a really awkward first date. She invites him to her house, or he invites her to his house, and it's just, I'm just watching. I'm enthralled, mesmerized by these performances, by how weird and kind of cryptic and strange and surreal and ominous it is. And I ended up saying, look, if he can do it, I'm going to try to do something similar. Of course, not nearly as successful, but I made a black and white movie on Rehearsal, Fuji Reversal in 1996 called House of Pancakes.
Where can we see that? Is that available?
It's not. I've got to retransfer. It got a release by EI Cinema, which was a small distributor in New Jersey in the mid 90s. It got a release on VHS. And I've still got all the film prints. I've still got all the audio. I need to re-telecine everything to 4K and re-edit it, which would not take that long because it's, it's a 5-to-1 ratio. We had 5 hours of footage, and I'm very proud of the movie. It's got some amateur.
I want to see it. You ticked all my boxes.
It's cool because it's a lot like a lot of my films. It's a mixture of genres. It's a comedy. It's romantic. It's a horror film. It's a drama. But it's a mashup of a lot of different genres. What I've always kind of done. This new movie is definitely a mashup of slasher films and political social commentary and sex comedy. It's a lot of different things. Catfight was kind of a satire, a social satire. It was an action film. It was a feminist.
Catfight is, I think, I mean, I haven't seen all your films, but of all the films that I've seen, which I've not seen all of them, I've seen like 3. Catfight is the best one. Catfight was the story of Catfight. I don't even know how you came up with that story.
Well, before we go into that, though,
I
will say the one location movie to me is something that I love plays. I love dialogue. I make my living as a graphic designer and an editor. And when I get graphic design jobs or motion design jobs, I can listen to podcasts. I can listen to anything I want. And what I used to do is I used to listen to movies. I used to listen to films all the time.
Yes.
My favorite films to listen to were movies that were based on plays or movies that took place in 1 or 2 locations. I watched Glenn Ross, David Mamet's movie from the 90s. I've listened to that movie fucking 30 or 40 times. And what it does is it gives you a kind of an ear for the nuances of language, the musicality of language. I've probably listened to Hal Hartley's Henry Full fucking 30 times. You know what I mean? And I love movies that are set in one location. Again, give me a really great set of actors and some good dialogue, and I'm transfixed. The Big Kahuna was another great movie from the 90s. It had Kevin Spacey, Danny DeVito, 3 people in a hotel room, and they don't make movies like that anymore. I think Polanski's made a few movies like that. He made that movie Carnage a couple of years ago that came out, and every now and then you'll have films that come out. But I can watch that all day as long as the fucking script has to be good. I think for me a big problem with a lot of films these days are people think they're auteurs, directors who are very fine directors. They're not the best writers, and they're writing and directing when they shouldn't be writing. I don't want to sound like an elitist prick. I should probably.
You are 150 billion. You just you nailed it on the head.
I think it's really, really true. I mean, the writer is a vaunted position. It's a specialized art. Listen, I should probably be writing and not directing. Directing is specialized too, but I just happen to like to direct. And also, my priorities in the last decade have misrepresented my ability as a director. I think people think that I don't care about visuals, or I'm not a good visual director, or my movies look cheap or whatnot. When I want my movies to look good, they look good, and we want them to look good. We can make them look good, and I'm all a visual virtuoso when I want to be. It sounds like I'm bragging, but a lot of the films, when you make a film in 11 or 12 days, you have to think about priorities. And for me, the priorities have been performance. It's like I want time to shoot performances and less time about the visuals. I'm more interested in how a movie sounds and how it's performed than how it looks. Although now with the last few films, this French film that just came out last year, it's aesthetically one of the most beautiful films I've ever made. It's called That Cold Dead Look in Your Eyes. It's a beautiful movie about
Morantz.
Exactly. Yeah, Your Dying Eyes. I don't even know how to pronounce it in French. I speak no French at all. I do want to make some other foreign movies. I want to go to Turkey and make several movies in Turkey. I want to go to Poland and make a movie. I've been to Wrocław, Poland several times. I'd love to make a movie out there. I love that city, and I'd love to make a movie in France. In another country. It's just exciting.
Yeah.
But the one location movie, man, I made a movie called The Misogynist. For me, the whole conceit was
that's about the election or something.
It's about 2 people celebrating in a hotel room on election night, 2016 election, the Trump election, and I wanted to make something that was apolitical, that criticized both sides, because I'm a lefty, but I also am I like to criticize. I like to criticize my party. I think you have to do able to do that.
Nobody's perfect, and you want to. It's not about demonizing one side and being more divisive. It's like shining a light on all the shortcomings of all sides of the spectrum.
Absolutely, right? And then when you have an absolute morality where you absolutely think that you're right about something, and you take a smug stance for an elitist stance. I mean, that to me, that's just fucking evil and gross, and also causes hostility on the other side. Like, so I don't know. I tend to my goal has always been to try to bridge the gap between the right and the left through derision, through mocking both sides. So that was the idea behind the misogynist. Again, Dylan Baker. In that movie, Trieste Kelly Dunn, Ivana Milicevic. I don't know if you ever watched the show Banshee. I had a fucking killer cast in the misogynist.
I watched that was on Cinemax. I watched that's with the Amish. I watched the first season, and my favorite part was really the Amish characters. I was so enthralled.
Is it Amish? I've never seen Banshee. I just know that people love Banshee.
Yeah, it fell off. I couldn't get into the second season, but yes,
no problem. You could say that you
thought
it sucked. It's fine. But Trieste Kelly Dunn and Ivana Milicevic are on that show, and they're in the misogynist, and they're fucking brilliant. The whole cast is brilliant, but Dylan Baker is fucking incredible. No one saw his performance, and I thought it was a real travesty that no one saw it. And I think that the idea
has that come out yet? By the way, that's available.
It barely came out 3 years ago, like all my films. If you talk about punk rock, how much you like punk rock, this is a very punk rock movie. And we're not living in a time right now where you can be punk rock and people will embrace you, because punk rock's always about kind of sticking the finger to authoritarianism and corporate kind of
you kind of seem like a punk rock filmmaker to me in general. You seem punk rock, which is why I feel like it's so perfect. Like your attitude. When I've listened to you talk about, your tenacity is what makes you punk. Like, whether you like it or not, like, you have this tenacious attitude towards going out and making movies. And when I listen to you, like some previous, like you talking about stuff, like, it lights a fire of do not sit on your ass and wait around. Just fucking go out there and fucking give them hell.
Well, yeah, when you use creativity as fuel and your podcasts and your films and stuff, I don't really have much of a choice, and I'm terrified. Before I sit down to write a screenplay, I'm always terrified that the words aren't going to come, because I don't quite know where they come from all the time. I consider myself a very dumb person. I don't mean that like in a, oh my God, self-hatred kind of way. You're a smart guy. I have a lot of smart friends. I know what intelligence is. That ain't me. And I feel like, listen, you have to earn it. You have to consume things. You have to read. You have to listen. You have to think about things. And for me, I'm either working to make a living or I am making something creative, trying to read as much as I can in between. Or I write a lot of music too. But I spend a lot of time just in the process of making things just to fight off depression. It is kind of like, it is medicine for me. I have to have it just to get that endorphin kick or whatever that, it is therapeutic. It's absolutely therapeutic.
Yes.
Septian, if you've seen Septian, there's a ton of artwork in the movie.
Yes.
A bunch of original. And I did all that artwork. That's my artwork. I painted all that stuff.
This is your cover.
That's my cover. That's one of the paintings from the movie. It's not one of the best.
That's what made me buy it. I saw the cover and I was like, I'm going to buy this because I don't even know what it's about. I literally bought it blind. I don't even think I read the back, and I watched it. I watched it maybe 9 or 10 years ago or something.
Well, you should. I showed the movie in a fucking art gallery in Reno, Nevada, about 3-4 years ago, and man, it played so well. It's such a weird dream.
I'm gonna spin it again.
Turn all the lights off, man. Turn all the lights off. Get really cozy and let it. Do you smoke weed? You don't seem like a weed smoker.
I am sober now.
Oh, nice.
I have no problem. I don't have any problem with weed smoking. I do want to ask you, you just elicited a question when you said a dark room, and 2 things, 3 things, 4 things, 5 things. Wait. Okay. I need to go to, we have to go to our commercial break.
Sure.
You have to answer the Pizza Punk question. And I have one question, and we will continue this conversation. And I just want to quickly say the film is from 1979. It's Wozniak. 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 It's Woyzeck. And it was one of, they collaborated on 7 films. And you should see My Best. I'm sure you've seen My Best Fiend. If you haven't,
I've never seen My Best Fiend.
Dude.
It's a documentary about the making of Akira, Wrath of God, right?
No, it's a documentary about
his
Klaus
relationship with Klaus Kinski.
Yes, and how even though they hated each other, they were adversaries, but they made 7 movies together, and how they needed each other, and what it says about we don't necessarily love the people that we make the best art with, and that
Sure.
we are forced, and you see this with musicians constantly. How many times you look at a band who they fucking hate each other, but why are they in the band? Why are they still married to each other? Because they found the creative mojo, and they can't, that's the only way they can be
That tension
creative.
a lot. Yeah, beauty comes from that tension, you know, absolutely.
Right,
Without a doubt,
right.
100%. I
But
agree with that.
but I'm so sorry, I'm cutting you off real quick. We're gonna go to the commercial break. You're gonna think about the question, is pizza punk? And I, God, my fingers, they're so sticky. Are your fingers sticky? Feel your fingers right now. Is your face sticky? Is my face? You know what else sticks?
Oh, here we go. Commercial. Can I go to the bathroom?
Yeah, go to the bathroom.
Okay,
go to the bathroom. Go. You know what else sticks, guys? Stickers. Stickers are what stick. And this channel is powered by riotstickers.com. And what riotstickers.com, great independent business, run by Josh Sharpie Riot. They put out stickers. I wish he just sent me some stickers and I don't have it on my persons. They are beautiful. These are beautiful vinyl stickers. We're doing a special promotion with riotstickers.com. It's normally $59, but for $29.50, you can get 50 3-inch by 3-inch stickers at riotstickers.com with a 50% off code Frumess. The link is down in the description of this video. Like I said, you might need some, if you are a visual person, if you are a visual artist, if you need something put on or represented visually, what better way to do that than stick it with a sticker? So what you do is you take your sticker, you put it on a pole, you stick it somewhere, and suddenly your message, or whatever your message is, it is projected for the world. And you're not going to find a better way to do that than with riotstickers.com. Competing stickers, brands and companies, their stickers don't stick the way that Riot stickers stick. I got to tell you, I love Sharpie Riot and his Riot stickers. So check it out. Promo code is Frumess, like the name of the channel, Frumess. Link is in the description. And we're going to watch the quick 60-second video talking about riotstickers.com. Then we'll get back to our conversation real soon.
Posters and promo cards, there's nothing we can't print for you. From stage backdrops to bass drum heads, we can print on shirts, we can print on hats, we can print on pants. Cheap prices and high quality, quick turnaround times and free shipping. We also offer free artwork support, great customer service, and so much more. We are the bomb. Riotstickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. Riotstickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. Riotstickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb.
All right, Riot stickers. That's why I was talking about things being sticky. I always segue in by going, something. I always use sticky as a way to go and talk about stickers, and then in this case, riotstickers.com. But we are back to our conversation, and I proposed the thesis question of this ongoing show to Onur here, and I said to him, is pizza punk? And if it is punk, why is pizza punk? And if it is not punk, why is it not punk? And I want to know if you have an answer for me, sir.
It's not a good answer, but I think the first thing that popped in my head was pizza's so popular and everybody loves it that it's not punk, because punk is kind of a specialized, thing. A lot of it's very rarefied, right? I mean, it's a very small percentage of the population who likes punk, right? And everybody.
I would argue punk is very. I mean, listen.
Is it mainstream? Is it very mainstream? Yeah.
I think it's very. I think it's very mainstream. And as I said to you before, your subjective answer is going to be valid no matter what it is.
We can talk it out, because what 1 out of 10 people like punk, that is mainstream, right? Or is it 2 out of people? 7 out of 10 people like pizza, right? Everybody fucking loves pizza. punk isn't the same as rock and roll. I mean, I don't even know what punk really is. I'm always talking about punk rock. I always saw punk rock as like whatever, the Clash. That's punk rock, right? And
well, I mean, look, punk is, you know what? Punk is many things, and you know, it's kind of like, I feel like punk is also like the Tao, you know, like the Tao Te Ching. If you talk about the Tao is to not know what the Tao is, like that whole trip, like, you know, if you try to describe punk, that's not punk. Like there's no way to, you know, and you could sit here and come up with textbook definitions of what punk is. But, you know, one of the definitions of punk, for sure, one of the ways to identify punk is simplicity. And just the way that there is beauty in simplicity. And for when it comes to punk rock, this notion of you take 3 chords and you go and you form a band and you make music. And the 3 chords, you have 3 chords and you have pizza, sauce, and cheese. And that's all you need to make a pizza. In the same way, that's all you need. You need 3 chords to make a song. And so, in my personal opinion, again, I'm not saying yours is not valid. Yours is perfectly valid. In my personal opinion, that's what makes pizza so punk, is that it's like this simple everyman food that you only need these 3 things to make it. However, there's so many different ways to do pizza. There's so many different toppings and combinations to make something so unique and yet so identifiable, because pizza has specific markers that make it pizza. It's like the age-old question, is a hamburger a sandwich? Is it a sandwich or is it a burger? And, you know, some people say it's a sandwich. Some people say it's a burger. With pizza, you need certain markers that make it a pizza. But yet at the same time, you can put so many crazy toppings. You go to these specialty pizza shops and they got like just crazy banana toppings, like just insane things that you could put on a pizza and you still call it pizza. You got bean burrito pizza. You go to Dimo's in Chicago. They got crazy pizza. They put macaroni and cheese on pizza. You got tortellini pizza. You got taco pizza. So, you know, I don't know.
Is it punk rock to be drunk as fuck, stumbling down the sidewalk in the Lower East Side with a fucking just gross slice of pizza in your hand, like, you know, stumbling? Because I've done that several times.
Maybe.
If that's punk, then pizza's definitely punk rock. You know, I love pizza so much. I try to avoid it. I put on weight so easily. You know what I mean? My face just balloons up. It all goes in my belly. But I fucking love pizza.
Nothing like a good pie, and it's great. You know, it's not the best food it's not the most humane food to be feeding your crew, but it's also so like easy and awesome, and so you're never going to find, in generally speaking, you could always go to like a whole film crew and be like, hey, you guys like pizza? Everyone's like, yeah.
Well, I gotta tell you, when it's 11-day, I think we shot for 11 days. We have a few more days to shoot, but we had to have pizza twice, and I apologized both days because I'm like, we want to keep things green, we want to keep things healthy. But again, people shrugged and said, hey, pizza, who complains? Everybody likes the taste of pizza. So,
well, maybe if you had a little salad, you know, you put a little salad on the side.
We had side salads on there. Yeah. Nobody really ate them, but then we definitely had them. So, you know.
Here's what I want to ask you. Here's what I really want to talk about with you, or what I'd like to know and get your 2 cents. And you have a lot of experience, and I just want to hear your experience about all this stuff. The state, what, like this notion of how distribution for films and like what that looks like, and how like the internet is such a weird thing, because on one hand, the internet has created, just like the way that the DSLR gave anybody the ability to make a good looking movie, the internet has basically allowed anybody who has both the juice and like, for instance, if you have a cult of personality, like an audience, whatever the size is, if you have a cult of personality that surrounds you, that you can drive traffic to a very specific pinpoint place on the internet and self-distribute yourself, or, you know, and also the notion of, and I'm just sort of like throwing a bunch of things at the wall and you just talk, the idea of like, is a distribution deal without a money guarantee in this day and age, is it nothing but vanity? Is it nothing but validation? Because you're never going to see a dime. And it's just like, oh, we got picked up by this boutique label, but they don't pay people. And it goes back to this notion of, hey, I can make a film for a couple $1,000. Why on earth if I'm not going to make my money back giving it to a distributor, why on earth wouldn't I not? And this is the Joe Schwamberg, Mark Duplass mentality of like, own your work. It's like literally the most valuable thing you could do. Maybe someday, if you do make a name for yourself, or if you do make a splash, that someone's going to want to license your catalog. And if you own everything, then that's a friggin' possibility. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I can't speak to anybody else but my own experience, and I always like to say, and I always like to say, oh my God, I mean, I've got such a big fucking mouth that I don't know what I'm talking about fucking half the time. I know how to talk. I can talk about making movies because I know how to do that. That's quantifiable. That is something that's very specific and scientific. When I talk about things that are nebulous, like the state of distribution, I'm talking out of my ass, and I'm talking from out of my own frustrated experiences of not getting into certain festivals, not getting distribution deals.
Talk about festivals too. Talk about festivals. You've had some interesting festival experience.
I've had luck and I've had bad luck, but I'm not singular. Sometimes it feels personal when your movies don't get into film festivals because you're like, why are so certain filmmakers are preordained, they're predestined, whatever they make is going to get into certain festivals, so those festivals support their work. That can be very annoying. It can be very annoying when you see at Sundance or South by or other festivals that a bunch of the movies that are playing already have distribution or are created by Netflix, Apple TV, or whatever. It's like, oh, well, Jesus Christ, those movies don't need any fucking help. Who needs help? Who needs the visibility? Who needs the exposure of these low budget filmmakers who are making movies? So here's what I've learned. And we've got this movie right now that I think is very viable. It's beautifully made, beautifully acted. It's got a great, diverse, exciting cast.
Pound Cake, right?
Pound Cake. It's got a really great hook. It's a horror movie that I think could be a franchise easily because the fucking idea is fucking solid. And I'm just really excited about it. It's the best thing I think I've ever done. And if anybody, again, if people like Summer of Blood, and Summer of Blood was very popular, a horror, punk rock kind of horror film, really fucked up comedy. This one is definitely in that ballpark, but I think it's next level in terms of comedy. I don't have a PR person, so I have to be my own PR machine, right? So the hope is, okay, I want to find a sales rep, right? Somebody who will take the movie, pimp out the film, and maybe submit it to festivals. Now, look, to get into the big festivals, you got to have relationships with some of these programmers out there.
100%.
Now, sales reps have those relationships. They can champion your movie. They can play the politics. There's a lot of politics there. They do take some filmmakers blind who they've never met before, but whatever. 2,000 people submit a movie. They take 1 or 2 movies of 2,000 people that submitted a movie blind. Everybody else has to have an edge. So a sales rep, and this is the catch-22 that I've found on some of my movies. It is hard to get a sales rep if you haven't gotten into these film festivals already, because or if they see your movie early, and they think there's promise, they will help you get into these festivals and film festivals. You go to the film festival, you go to a big market, hopefully the movie sells to a streaming service or to a distributor or whatnot. But if you don't get into the festivals, it's hard to get the sales rep. If you don't have the sales rep, it's hard to get to the distributors. So all those things are kind of connected, in my opinion. Now, I've earned enough of a reputation. Some people like me, some people don't, but everyone agrees that I make interesting work that's pretty well made. I know enough distributors and enough contacts that I can reach out to people and sales reps and say, hey, I have a new movie that's finished. Would you like to watch it? And they'll consider it. The big problem with my movies is just that they're just a little bit too, they don't have big, Catfight had big actors in it. We had success with that. But a lot of my movies don't have, I don't know, they're small or quirky or weird or aren't marketable. They can't sell them. A lot of distributors will tell me, oh, I like your movie a lot, but I can't make any money off this. We can't sell it to a streaming service or whatever. So I don't know what to say. I know Mark Duplass did this keynote address at South by Southwest.
The Calvary is not coming. The best keynote ever in the history of fucking keynotes.
But what was his point? His point was get movie stars, right? And that's how you'll get your film financed. Wasn't his point? What was his point?
His point, and again, and I'll be honest with you, I like Creep. I'm much more, again, talk about the cult of personality. I've seen some of his work and it's okay. Like it's nothing bad or good or whatever. Just like I've seen his work. His work doesn't turn me on as much as him as a filmmaker and what he accomplishes and his attitude. He is the pragmatic, just sort of spirit that he has. What he said in that keynote in 2015 is the Calvary is not coming. At that time, that's when Netflix was still sort of, slowly they were beginning to taper. They weren't taking indies anymore, but they were still, because if this is like 2012 or whatever, like you could get it was possible to get a fucking
Summer of Blood got on Netflix in 2012.
That's where I watched it then. I think that's where I watched it.
Showtime, sure. These smaller movies, they don't, but there are other streaming services like Tubi and stuff like that now that are doing that, right?
Tubi is the shit right now. Lots of independent.
Right now?
Well, it's in, as taking the pulse of what I hear from filmmakers on Facebook and stuff. I'm in like every single filmmaker distribution film group, which is where you can catch the pulse of everything that is happening in the industry. Because here's part of the problem. Part of the problem is the goalpost, and this has been my personal problem. The goalposts keep getting moved, and they move so fast. By the time you're a foot away from where the goalpost is, you look up and it's 15 feet ahead, and you go, "What the fuck? Like what the fuck? Like I was getting ready for this." Now it's what? So where? What? So you're constantly trying to catch up as things are changing constantly. Yeah. You get these boons from time to time where Amazon opens its floodgates and like blows the doors off of like indie distribution by going, hey, upload your film to Amazon Prime, one of the biggest marketplaces in the world. We'll give you a nice streaming royalty rate, and you guys can do your thing. Only to then become the biggest game in town and go, nah, we're gonna turn off that faucet. Fuck you. It's constantly evolving. Around 2015, Mark Duplass, he's going, look, you gotta stop thinking. You gotta stop thinking that or waiting around to that you're gonna find your way into the pitch room and pitch your movie, and you're gonna get your budget, and you're gonna get your Netflix distribution deal, and it's all gonna be hunky-dory. You need to start wherever you are. You need to just start making movies. You just need to go. Just do it. Do it now. And that's probably the greatest lesson that again, if you want to be a filmmaker, when I'm saying you, I'm talking about whoever might watch this. If anybody watches this, or in general, if someone is rhetorically saying, I'd like to be a filmmaker, how do I get started? If that's the case, you don't have to move to LA. You don't have to move to New York. You don't have to move anywhere. Stay right where you are in whatever town you are. Go into your attic, find the weirdest thing in your attic, and then try and make it the MacGuffin, and write a fucking weird ass screenplay around it, and go and shoot your film and fucking make your movie. And right then and there, you can be a filmmaker. You don't have to wait. And your movie is going to be more interesting in New York because you have that weird fucking thing that was in your attic that nobody else has. You're not making another cookie cutter, zombie film. You're making this weird, quirky thing that nobody else has. And that doesn't apply to every single type of filmmaking or filmmaking style, but that's what I heard when I heard Mark Duplass giving that Calvary speech. So
I absolutely believe in the egalitarianism of filmmaking, and I think that's what's beautiful about the time we're living in is you can make a movie for $3,000, $4,000 that looks and sounds good. And if you get good acting, listen, you don't have to spend any money for acting. If you find great actors, you find 3 actors who really want to be in a movie, they
Yep.
Absolutely. There's that red thing popping on the screen. I'm sorry.
Those are comments from people. That's JD. And Brian says he's inspired. Great discussion. So
Brian's always inspired. He's constantly writing. He's he is
quite the writer.
Yeah.
He's always getting nominated. He's always getting nominated at Genre Blast Film Festival.
I would like to see some of his movies get turned into horror movies or whatever type of movies he makes. The difference, and I believe in the egalitarianism of making movies, but I feel like for me, it's less about like, oh man, what can I make a movie about that might be interesting, as opposed to I got to get this off my fucking chest. I mean, I got to say something, because I've always just had this, I don't know, like this contrarianism or something like that. I've always been getting in trouble since I was a young child. I was always fucking getting in trouble. No, unfortunately, no, I'm not in the Misfits. I am a misfit.
Sorry, Dagger.
I'm a misfit, but not in the band.
We have misfits on this channel, both in the band and out of the band misfits. All misfits of all kind. Yeah. So
just having the need to say something, and that's what's kind of beautiful about where we're living. You can say that. I think that's what's beautiful about the podcast, even more so, is that it takes even less resources now to say
put it out.
And you know, it's so funny because people are like, people don't have attention spans and they can't. And I think that's kind of fucking true in the movie theater because assholes can't go 2 hours without checking their goddamn cell phones, which drives me crazy.
Wow.
But the whole idea of not having attention spans is also contradicted by the notion of the TV series and how somebody will watch 10 hours of TV in 3 nights. And that's counterintuitive to the idea of not having.
But The Last Duel. Oh, we can't go see The Last Duel because it's a 3-hour movie. And it's like, it just.
You know, I have my big problem with The Last Duel. Did you see it? My big problem with that was,
I did.
Give me a fucking, listen, we've invested 2.5 hours of our time to see this final fight. Give me a 20-minute epic fucking battle. Don't give me this truncated 5-minute fucking fight, which is not bad, but like, I want something fucking epic at the end. You know what I mean?
We needed epic, and we got some catharsis, but we needed more. We need to have more. You know?
I'm wanting to see those two. I'm paying to see that final fucking thing. I love this. I think it's so current.
The Rashomon.
Yeah,
angle.
I love
so
the
good.
The skewed point of view of each person. I thought that was fucking brilliant. I was a little disappointed in the writing because I'm a big Nicole Holofcener fan. Is that who wrote?
No. Ben. So check this out. This is what's crazy about this script that I did not know. So Ben Affleck and Matt Damon wrote the script. However, for the wife's,
the women's
I forget her name. That was
Jodie Comer.
Yeah, they brought her in because they felt like if we need a female writer for this perspective, which was a smart move. It was a good,
I think it's a smart move that she's a great writer, but there was a lot of writing that felt a little hokey, and it was like it could have benefited from people who actually had written that type of, type of anyway. But my point is, I don't even fucking remember what my point is now. Is that everybody should make movies and they should do it. But I need to.
That's punk rock, by the way. Everything you just said, by the way, all the shit that you were just saying when we were talking about like what is punk rock, you're talking about like needing to say something. That, like, if you want to talk about like the most base definition, needing to say something and not having to go to, thank you, Dagger, for the support. We truly appreciate it, Dagger. Thank you for the tip and the support. Needing to say something and not having to go to a gatekeeper to do it. Just fucking taking what you have in your pocket and expressing yourself. That is the core of punk fucking rock.
Yeah, and I love it. But which reminds me too, it's like the idea of, not having attention spans and then people listening to 3 hours, 4 hours of fucking podcast every day. And also the ability to start your own podcast and speak for 3 hours about whatever you want. I think it's a beautiful time we're living in where people can do that. Now you've also got some of the pros and cons, the cons being misinformation and all that stuff, but that's always been the case. I feel like I lie. I feel like I lie unwittingly 20 times, 30 times a day. I'm constantly getting things wrong. Things that I may have just read about or heard, I'll start talking about it and I just get it wrong. That's just
hyperbole. Hyperbole comes into play, and you're like, you not you. I'm saying people speak with hyperbole after reading something, and things get like slightly exaggerated or through a different perspective.
Yeah, I just get so annoyed by so many different things. You're reading all about, Tom Brady's. I know you don't follow football. You say you don't follow music is your sport, but Tom Brady retiring, arguably one of the greatest quarterbacks or one of the greatest athletes who ever played.
I know who he is. Yeah,
and articles coming out saying there will never be another Tom Brady, and it's so infuriating because we've only had football for 100 years, right? And it's like, or 80 years or 70, whatever long. Again, like, I don't know, but it's like, I know it's less than 100 years, right? And it's like, okay, you're saying never, which means that, okay, so what if football is around? I don't believe human civilization will be around for another 100 years. I hope it is. I hope we survive.
I hope so too.
I hope the world continues for another, epoch, another billion years. But let's say it does, and let's say we have another 5,000 years of fucking football, right? So there's never going to be another fucking Tom Brady in 5,000 fucking years, even though we have 100 years of history to base it. I hate shit like that. This idea that we're not thinking about the future in terms of culturally, the things you can and can't say, a cultural appropriation or this and that. It's like only thinking about the now and not the future. What is the future going to look like?
What about the Beatles? Apply what you just said to the Beatles. I don't know if you're like one of those dudes who's like, oh, I don't like the Beatles because, they think they're a little overrated, blah, blah, blah. But if you're not one of those guys and you do like the Beatles, do you think that applies with everything you just said? Does that apply to the Beatles?
Jesus Christ, I don't know, because rock and roll 200 years from now, it's going to be so derivative. People, who knows how it's going to evolve. We still have classical music from 500 years, 1,000
That's
years.
true.
And but is the Beatles, does that count? They've only that's only 40 years of history since they made their music. 60 years of history since they made their music. I have no idea. I know a lot of Beatles fans, diehard aficionados, I know would tell me to go fuck myself. The Beatles are going to be eternal. They will never age. They'll be evergreen. But I don't know. It's hard to say.
I think
Spielberg,
the answer,
Soderbergh, Roger Corman, any of the contemporary artists, who's really doing anything that's so singular besides Fritz Lang or Buster Keaton or people like that who are really fucking doing things that revolutionary.
Metropolis. There's never going to be another Metropolis. By the way, real quick, to add to that list, I had this rattling around in my brain, and we keep going from thing to thing to thing because you are really good conversation. You are a phenomenal conversationalist.
I feel like I'm having an off night. I'm a little
oh my God, no, you're firing on all cylinders. It's fantastic. Another film you were talking about going to Austin 2001. I don't know if you saw this film, because that's right around the time that The American Astronaut by Corey Maccabee came out, which is one of my all-time favoriteest of favorite films that absolutely does that thing that we were talking about, like with Jim Jarmusch and all, and Stranger Than Fiction, all those movies. These shots, every single shot, it is a black and white Western sci-fi musical shot on 35. Like literally the weirdest fucking movie that also was on Netflix. That's where I saw it. It was on Netflix in, I think, 2013. It's never had a Blu-ray release.
What's the name of the filmmaker?
His name is Corey Maccabee.
I think that he made a movie called Killer and Thief. Wait, something.
Yes, he did. Crazy and the Thief.
Crazy and the Thief. I hung out with him at the Memphis Film Festival in 2014.
That's awesome.
I believe.
That's fucking awesome.
And he was there. He was fucking awesome and amazing. And there was a cult of personality surrounding him. Everybody who had seen, it's called The American Astronaut. What is it called? The American
Astronaut. One of my all-time favorite films of all time. The best.
They were starstruck when they would.
You have to see it. You have to see it.
Now, I haven't thought about it in years, but Crazy and Thief fucking blew my mind. It's this 50-minute movie about his kids running around as little rebels all around whatever city. I guess it was New York. I can't remember.
New York. Yeah, he's in Brooklyn. He's a Brooklyn guy.
And man, that fucking Crazy and Thief blew my mind. But that was 2001, and you bring it up because it's shot the same way.
Yeah. I was right. Yeah, I wanted to I wanted to see if you had seen it, and if you hadn't.
I haven't thought about Corey in a long time, but I want to see it because I heard how brilliant it is. So you frozen, by the way. I don't know if I'm still frozen. I don't know if I'm frozen. You froze. You're freezing on the screen. I don't know.
Me, or am I frozen?
Jeff, I can hear you now. I can hear you now. Am I still frozen? I can see your lips
frozen. Only I froze. How about that?
Did I freeze?
No, I froze. Looks like I froze. Damn.
You were freezing on my end, but now you're back. So
yeah. That happens. That is part of the ups and downs of live podcasting on YouTube. It just it's so funny. It's like you're doing. It's almost like you're doing. It's like performance. It's like a performance podcast that you do. That and speaking, it's funny. You were talking about how things are feature length, and this is the ultimate irony of trying to make money from like creating things and like making art. To finish that thread, before we were talking about American Astronaut, but I just want to put a pin in that for 1 second. To finish the thread that we were talking about, this is the sheer irony of spending 18 months making a film for $2,500. We shot 23 days in 18 months. And I'm thinking, this is going to be my big fucking debut. And, I'm going to sell it and blah, blah, blah. That's how we all think, right? Like, you're that first film, delusions of grandeur syndrome that you suffer from. Then you get a shot of humility. You get the big dose of humility and recognize exactly what you are. And then to come back to YouTube after the failure that I felt, which I told you about, and suddenly to get my channel not only remonetized, but then I start to look around and I start to see YouTube in a completely different way that I have never seen before. You and I both, we remember what it was like before YouTube. When YouTube came around, there was a stigma. Filmmakers have a stigma about YouTube. If you put your work on YouTube, there is like it's a very sort of like people turn their noses at something that's been put on YouTube. Would you agree with that, in all honesty?
I guess back in the day, but that's also launched the career of people, right? That Broad City,
It
the girls did
has.
Broad City, didn't they?
It
Do their
has. Yes.
series on there? You know, yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
No. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
No. I guess there might be the stigma just because there's so much on YouTube that's bad that it feels like, why are you putting yourself up there with all the dregs of the culture? You know, which is an elitist kind of point of view. I think there could have been a time, or I guess it could still be a day where I might think, oh my God, why would you just dump your movie on YouTube? I think a lot of people.
That was such a stigma.
The same stigma too of like you being a DP or you being a director who wants to shoot your own work and do your own sound and not get a proper sound person, not get a proper DP, and not having at least a crew of, I don't know, do you do crews of 10 people, 11 people, or is it just 2 people?
So what happened was I found I found this, do you know The Battery, the zombie film? It's the zombie film. They made it for $6,000, and it was one of actually talk about one of the last genre films that really fucking toured on, like blew up in that kind of way. He convinced me. I'm a videographer. I'm not a cinematographer. He was the guy who said, "You shoot it, I'll do the sound," and we made that film together as like just the two of us doing everything. So I've never had a crew.
I think that's great. I think to do that is all fantastic. But but you can if the sound is not amazing and if the cinematography, if it could be better, if you get someone who knows what the fuck they're doing, I feel like you could shortchange yourself. I'm basically telling you what people are always telling me, which is like up your game. You know what I mean? Like instead of making it for $2,000, find 4 or 5 people to give you $2,000 or $3,000 and make it for $15,000 or $20,000 or $25,000.
Right.
Look, and people are saying to me, stop making these $80,000, $50,000 movies. Go back. Catfight was only $350, and they keep saying after Catfight you should be at $1 million or $2 million. Well, I know a lot of people who have a lot more talented than I am who can't raise $1 million or $2 million. And they've been to Sundance, they've been to Cannes, they've been to Toronto, they've been everywhere. And they've had a lot of success with prior movies, and it's like, they're having a hard time. Again, the cavalry's not coming. You know what I mean? I've always had the skepticism about that world. I'm like, I have control. I can make the movies I want to make for these budgets. Now, look, my new movie, I'm not going to sit there and say that was a small budgeted movie because it wasn't, because we were able to get a lot of money on it. But so sometimes you get lucky. You do find money, you know what I mean? And sometimes you don't. But at the same time, I don't know if I'm going to if I were to make a low budget film right now in this environment, I don't know if I would be so outspoken about how much I spent on it, because here's the thing.
Yeah.
All the distributor needs is an incentive, a reason not to offer you an MG. Oh my God, they spent such a little amount of money. We could offer them a little bit amount of money to release it. Or, they haven't had festival presence. They just want to get the movie distributed, and we don't have to offer them anything. And if they know the movie's low budget, they won't. If they offer you anything, it won't be that much money anyway.
But they don't exist. They literally, for a certain tier, they just don't like. I guess like the flip side of saying I'm doing a micro budget film is the notion of like you don't almost want to find distribution for it because they're not going to fucking give you a guarantee in the first place. They're just not going to do it. They're never. It just doesn't happen.
The hope for the smaller movies, and they don't really get it, it's getting into a big festival that legitimizes it, Or a tiny budgeted movie gets into a festival like Sundance. Fantasia is great. Fantasia does still show very low budget. I love Fantasia.
I've heard great things.
Mitch Davis, man, and those guys out of Fantasia, they're fucking great. I've never played Fantastic. I'd love to play Fantastic. I've been in Fantasia twice. I had a great time. I showed Summer of Blood there years ago. Abel Ferrara. I don't know. You know the director, Abel Ferrara.
Yeah, of course.
He came to the screening of Summer of Blood. I had dinner with him and 4 or 5 other people.
Wow.
Fucking great.
You talk vampires with you
we talked The Addiction. The Addiction was a big influence on,
Let me tell you something. I saw it for the first time this October, and I was like crying tears watching how it's so beautiful. It's the most beautiful black and white. It's so beautiful to watch, truly.
Yeah. Yeah, there were a lot.
Gorgeous,
There
gorgeous
were a
film.
lot of weirdo movies from the 80s and 90s that had a big influence on Summer of Love that I didn't really realize until after as I was in the post-production process. I'm like, oh my god, Larry Fassenden's Habit. Did you ever see that? Habit's
Just
fucking brilliant.
also just saw Habit. You know what's funny? I've been watching that dude's films forever, and I've always been like, they always like I enjoy his films generally, but there's never one of his films has like really just like oh yeah, that's the shit. Fucking Habit was though. I watched Habit and I was like, because that's the one that he's known for, and I had avoided it. I watched Depraved, which just came out. It's a Frankenstein one, which is interesting. Yeah. I think it kind of falls apart for me a little bit. A little bit.
The first hour and a half. I said that to Larry personally, but like I think they, I don't know, maybe they ran out of money. I don't know what happened, but like you feel like it kind of collapses at the end of it. But I really like
it. And I was what was a letdown is not a letdown, but like,
I think Larry's fucking brilliant, and he's much better filmmaker than me, and way more. He's a fucking intelligent, brilliant man. So I'm not spitting on the movie.
Neither one of us are. Neither one of us are. But what I was so invested in it that it just, you know what it was? It just didn't go where I needed it to go or wanted it to go. And so I personally, my own expectations made me let me down. Not him. He did his thing, he did his vision, and
because the promise and the idea from the beginning, it's fucking brilliant. And it's just like the first act and the first hour and a half, it's got so much going for it. They get everything right that you can't capitalize on that promise, like you were saying, promises that need to be made on, and it's like I felt like it was kind of this Habit, however, and Wendigo, a lot of his movies in the late 90s and early aughts, man, that's Habit's fucking amazing. It's such a great. And then there's a movie
you watch Habit, and when you're done watching Habit, if you're a filmmaker and you watch Habit, you just go, I need to make a fucking movie right the fuck now. Like that's what happens to you. You know?
Gnarly Lower East. He is a gnarly Lower East Side filmmaker who, when he made Habit in the, I guess it was 98, 96, 96. He's running around with a 16mm camera and a skeleton crew around the Lower East Side making that film. Like I was in North Carolina, beholden to him 10 years before I met him. He eventually did a Q&A with me for Summer of Blood, and it meant so much. But I got to tell you, the thing I love about some vampire movies is the fact that it is focused on kind of one character, the one lone outsider. Addiction is that case.
It's about loneliness. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. And the Addiction was that way. I don't know if you've ever seen a movie in the late 80s. I'm really excited about Nicolas Cage playing Dracula in the
fucking Vampire's Kiss. Are you kidding me?
Vampire's fucking Kiss, man.
Yes.
And,
I wrote. Oh yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
No. You wrote what? You wrote what?
No. That Vampire's Kiss kind of inspired my first feature-length screenplay. I was so I am, and we talk about Nicolas Cage ad nauseum on this channel. I am a passionate Nicolas Cage fan. My goal is to watch every single Nicolas Cage film he's ever made. He's made 123. Check this out. Check out these stats. Ready? He's made 123 films as an actor. He's only done 3 sequels in 123 films. I've watched 54 of his films. I watch all of the DirecTV stuff too. All of like the straight to video stuff. I watch everything, and I am enamored. And if you want to see a really good performance, watch him with Werner Herzog in Port Authority.
Oh my God! Of course, are you kidding me?
Oh my God, dude!
I love that, but he's brilliant in that.
Brilliant.
Film. It's a terrible title. It's a terrible title of a movie.
They want to
Bad Lieutenant, Protocol, New Orleans.
They just want to call it Bad Lieutenant. That's what it was supposed to be called.
They shouldn't even call it Bad Lieutenant. They just should have had a one-off movie on its own. Like it didn't even need to be.
It didn't even need that name.
Movie. But I think his performance in that movie is fucking amazing. I think everybody's great. Who's the rapper?
Exhibit.
Exhibit's fucking great. Everybody's great
That scene, the intensity, and that's when I first started to realize how brilliant Nicolas Cage is as an actor. And I had seen Vampire's Kiss, mind you, but to me, I always think, people always want to go to Cage and they go, Rage Cage. He's raging now. Look at him go crazy. Yeah. But the truth of the matter is, Nicolas Cage, everything that he does is there's something behind it. Like he has this style. He calls it Western kabuki, nouveau shamanism. And what he does is all of his acting is based on like German expressionist sort of acting. He can do a realistic performance. Look at Pig. I mean, I don't know if you've seen Pig yet, but like that was a super subtle, restrained, realistic performance.
Movie.
But he can literally do everything. And here is my theory, my philosophy. Nicolas Cage is like tofu, and he is going to taste like whatever you season him with. So I never blame Nicolas Cage. I always blame the director. If Nicolas Cage is in a bad movie or doing bad stuff, I just say that director does not know how to ride the wild stallion.
I think that's kind of true. I think you never know what the situation is on a film set. It could be, they talk about John Landis not being able to get a good performance out of Eddie Murphy in Beverly Hills Cop 3. This is a stupid, lame, pedestrian example.
After the beef. But that's after the beef.
That's after the beef. But he said Eddie was like depressed. He couldn't get him. So it's like, okay, at some point, if your actor has an ego and just won't listen to the director, you never know what's going to happen there. I will say this too. Did you ever hear that thing about Marlon Brando when he would be on? I think I read this
on the score. On the score,
I can't remember. He was making fun of Frank Oz or what?
Yes. And he referred to Frank Oz. And by the way, score is a great. Yeah, Miss Piggy. The score is a great film, by the way. Good film.
Yeah.
Great,
I like that movie, of course. Although you can predict it a mile away how the ending's going to go when you see that thing. But the thing about Brando would talk about in his bio, I can't remember specifics, but he'd talk about how he would intentionally do a bad take. He would perform a take badly to see if the director would give him notes or to correct it. And if the director just said, "Oh, that was great, Marlon, let's go," he would phone in the rest of his before disrespectful. I can't remember the specifics, but I remember thinking, "Man, that's scary." But also makes you realize you have to be honest with people. You can't be intimidated by people.
So
you know
true.
What I mean?
So true. And you know what happened with the island of Dr.
Moreau. I mean, I heard about that.
There is, and I wish they would make a documentary. I wish they would make two things. One, I wish they would make a story. This is a true story. Marlon Brando, Michael Jackson, and Elizabeth Taylor all drove to somewhere in Ohio on the day that 9/11 happened. They could not get in. They were all together, and the planes hit. And they could not get out. And so they all hopped in a limousine and drove as far as the limousine would take them to like, which kind of reminds me, like, imagine if you made this film, it'd have to be like Harmony, like Mr. Lonely. It'd be like Mr. Lonely, but in a limousine with Marlon Brando and Elizabeth Taylor and Michael Jackson. And I would just love to hear the fly on the wall conversations between the three. Talk about one location movie. Boom! In a limousine.
They could get out of the limousine and go to the back. Have roadside diners. It would be brilliant. Again, great fucking dialogue, great fucking actors, and I'm in. Did you see that movie by who's the actress? Oh my god, she was in Jerry Maguire. She's fucking brilliant.
Renee Zellweger?
No. The black actress who's what's his face's wife. I can't remember. Fucking Regina Hall. No, it's not Regina. Goddamn Hall.
No, I don't know.
She's fucking fantastic. She directed this wonderful movie about. It was One Night in Miami. I think it's called. It's about Sam Cooke, Muhammad Ali, and fucking. Oh my god, I'm such a fucking.
It's
idiot.
based on a real true story, or it's just
based on one night where they all got together in fucking Miami. Who's not the opposite of, god damn it, I feel like such a fucking idiot right now. Not Louis Farrakhan, but goddamn Malcolm X. X, Muhammad Ali, and Sam Cooke. And it's about, during the tensions of the civil rights era and whatnot, and Muhammad Ali having to deal with all the shit he's going through, and of course, and it's a fucking brilliant, beautiful movie, and it's just these three. I probably a lot of fabricated dialogue. Who knows what they actually really talked about? Of course. But oh my god, I can't. I'm blanking on names. I'm so bad with names. I have this kind of situation.
It's also like Michael Lindsay Hogg when he did another Beatles project in 2000. They did a VH1 made-for-TV movie called Two of Us, which is about when John, because in the late 70s, and when you were talking about those Beatle guys, I am one of those Beatle guys. And in the late 70s, Paul McCartney, every time he'd come around New York City, he would visit John Lennon. And one time, and these guys, and there's no known recordings or if this, who knows what. Lynn is saying Nina Simone. Is that who you were thinking of?
No,
Nina Simone?
No, I'll tell you. I'm going to look it up as you're talking.
All right, look it up. I'll keep no dead air. So I'm going to keep talking while Onur looks it up. So shit, what the fuck was I just talking about?
So you're talking about
crap. What? I just hit a pothole. Talking about, guys, help me. What was I just thinking about? We were talking. Oh, VH1. Yeah. Two of us. So Paul McCartney would come around and see John Lennon in the last 5 years of his life when he was sort of like a recluse doing the family thing at the Dakota, and they would break out the acoustic guitars and just get stoned and just sort of like hang out together. And Lorne Michaels, and this is real, this is absolutely true. Lorne Michaels was on this was the early years of SNL. It might have been 77, 78, something like that. Lorne Michaels, as a goof, goes on SNL and says, we will pay John Lennon and Paul McCartney $3,000 if they will come down and reunite on SNL. Little did he know that both Paul McCartney and John Lennon were actually watching SNL and were considering actually, like, they were doing it as a joke, but that they were going to go down to SNL and go on air together. And they didn't end up doing it. They got too stoned and it just didn't happen. And Michael Lindsay Hogg made a fictionalized movie, again, talking about that idea, two people in an apartment. And the interesting thing, it's like, how do you keep that going for 80 minutes? It's fucking John Lennon and Paul McCartney,
of course,
post Beatles, having conversations about their fucking life and their lives. And, should we do this? Should we not do this? And ultimately they don't do it in the movie, but it's called Two of Us. And I haven't seen it since it came out. It came out in 2000. So it's been 22 years since I've seen it. But again, just one of those interesting ideas where you're taking real people and putting them in this sort of like, it's like you're taking the real situation and you're pulling on it like taffy, and you're just pulling out the taffy a little bit. And like, it's partially based on truth and it's just partially taffy.
One night, the movie was One Night in Miami.
Yeah.
Directed by Regina King. I said Regina Hall, who's also a brilliant black actress who's great. And I think Regina King, this might have been the first movie she's ever directed, and she fucking knocked it out of the park. And it's got characters are Malcolm X, Sam Cooke, Cassius Clay before he was Muhammad Ali, and Jim Brown. And it's like these four legends and icons, cultural icons, athletic icons at a time that it was very rife with, political, racial, incendiary strife. And it's a great movie, but I remember, watching it and just captivated. And they got the dialogue right and the direction right. And again, it's mainly in one location. So, Regina, who wrote this? Again, you have people who write. Kemp Powers is the person who wrote the screenplay, and Kemp Powers, whatever, must be a real fucking writer, because you can't get that shit right if the person's not a real fucking writer. Again, I'm complaining so much about writers. People think they're writers when they're not, I got to tell you, read screenplays.
Or what it is, maybe a writer director has a good screenplay, but it's just not refined enough. Because they're going to be the one that's going to be ushering it into the production, everything, that there's not enough soup, not enough cooks in the kitchen.
There's probably, of course. And who am I? I always tell people when they try to get me to read scripts, and I'm not an intuitive reader, and I'm not. And also, reading a script is a subjective thing. Like, you never know what their vision of it's going to be. It's all kind of like very nebulous. I read scripts all the time, and I'm like, this could be a horrible movie, and I end up watching the movie, and it's really, really great. You know what I mean? So
what the ultimate one location movie, in my opinion, and I know it's not exactly one location because it's a very contained movie, and it's the ultimate. I feel like they cracked the code with this movie, and it's like the perfect situation. And you can plug in, it's almost like Shakespeare. Like, how you could take Shakespeare and you could put it in any time and place, or you can plug it in over and over again. And that movie is Night of the Living Dead. It's like the perfect, like, sort of situation where you can put a bunch of characters in a forget about it, whether it's zombies. Let's say you don't like zombies. It could be anything. It could be some sort of contagion. It could be civil unrest. It could be anything, anywhere. And you put them in a house together with opposing conflicts. Because the thing that makes Night of the Living Dead interesting, it's not the zombies. It's the tension between between Ben and Harry Cooper. And it's made even further. Talk about, they say good directing is in the casting. And this was unintentional by George Romero at the time, but the idea of casting a black man at that time, and then what does that do? The entire script, because the script is written, the race is not supposed to be known. Like Ben could be played by anybody, but the moment you put a black man in that situation in 1968 at the height of racial tension, the whole story, the movie, everything suddenly takes on so many different multi-layered dimensions. All of the conflict, and you got a pure situation where you don't have good and evil. It's protagonist and antagonist, two completely different things. It's not good guys versus bad guys. An antagonist is not necessarily the bad guy. The antagonist is just opposed to the protagonist and has their own needs and wants. They might be, morally compromised in a way that a protagonist is not, but it's just like that ultimate pressure cooker situation. And I'm constantly trying to deconstruct it in a way where it can be done in a different kind of way. And it's just really hard. It's perfect.
Well, no, you're nailing it. And I think that's what's so beautiful about horror too, is the subversive nature of horror. And in Romero, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, and what was City of the Dead? What was the one that had the skyscraper?
Land of the Dead with
all those
Dennis
things,
Hopper.
all those things kind of skewered something. The Land of the Dead skewered the idea of class, the upper class, middle class, lower class, and the lower class being on the dredges of society with the zombies. Dawn of the Dead, I feel like skewered consumerism in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Day of the Dead, I can't remember. That was
Day of the Dead is
maybe.
So Day of the Dead really, and it comes down to that scene when they're having lunch. And Day of the Dead, it comes down to it's government. It's like government versus scientists, basically. The military represents the government, and then the scientists represent, I don't know, like reason or something. I don't know. And there's that scene where Captain Rhodes wants Sarah to take her seat, and she doesn't. And because he's not respecting her authority, he pulls the gun on her. He pulls the gun on his subordinate, and he says, "You shoot her if she doesn't sit down." And he goes, "Bang! You're dead," like joking. And then he pulls his gun. He says, "No, shoot her if she doesn't sit down." And it's like this, it's funny. This movie that's full of the best gore in the fucking world. I mean, just the best. Savini firing on all cylinders, and the best scene doesn't have a single zombie in it. It's the tension. There's not a single bullet is fired. There's no gore. There's no action. It's just two groups of people talking with opposing views and just creating a pressure cooker situation. Just so good.
Sounds like you're a huge Romero fan, are you?
Huge Romero fan.
Have you read the book The Living Dead, the novel that came? My friend Daniel Krauss wrote that. We're not
you're talking
close friends, but
Hold on. You're talking about the anthology or the one that was posthumously finished?
Posthumously finished. Daniel
I have not read that one yet. I read the anthology.
Fantastic. It's epic and it's fucking
I will.
huge.
I will.
Daniel spent 3 years this kind of mystery, researching all of his notes and unfinished novels and watching old movies that he made, and to come up with this book that honored,
it's been very well received.
And honored. Well, and you really should read it. I mean, it's very complex. It's really ambitious.
My agenda. It has,
and political. I mean, it deals with the military, race. It deals with it's also. She's got so much humanity in it. Like it's a beautiful book. If you're a Romero fan, and Krauss is an extraordinary writer and extraordinarily prolific, and he's terrific. He used to make movies in Wilmington, North Carolina when I was there. Yeah, he lived there. I think he went to the Iowa workshop for writing. He's an extraordinary writer. He made a documentary when he was in college at Iowa called Jeff Town. A documentary shot on 16 millimeter movie about a man with Down syndrome named Jeff Town, who was just, you could say it's exploitation, and maybe it is, but this Jeff Town is just extraordinary character study. That's what makes the best documentaries, right?
I'm already sold. I'm looking it up right now. Jeff
You need
Town.
to watch Jeff, and the last name is Town with an E at the end. And Daniel made this movie when he was in college and ended up getting into Slam Dance, and it had a very good festival run. And
1998.
Troma eventually ended up transferring all the film to a high definition transfer. And so the movie exists and it's fucking great. And Krauss, he made documentaries for a while. He had a documentary series called the Work Series. He made 3 or 4 movies, and then he decided to go back to writing novels, and he's had an extraordinary career. He was one of the he conceived the idea of what's the Shape of Water? He conceived the idea with Guillermo del Toro sitting.
Wait. Daniel did that?
Daniel and Guillermo del Toro. This is the story goes. They were having lunch one day, talking about. They were writing a book together. I think they've written 1 or 2 books together.
Absolutely loved it.
And they were talking about their love of movies and ideas that they had when they were younger. And they both had an affinity and a love, I believe, for Creature from the Black Lagoon. And then Daniel was telling him a story, the idea he had that was very similar to what would become Shape of Water. The story goes, what Daniel told me, I hope this is common knowledge. Daniel said that Guillermo del Toro said, "Oh my God, I love that idea. I wish I could do a Mexican accent, Spanish accent. I would try because Guillermo del Toro's fucking voice is so vibrant.
It's a beautiful, endearing accent that he has. I love it.
Oh my God. And just so full of life and so fucking funny and talk about minutia and culture. And did you listen to the Mark Maron podcast with him a few weeks ago?
I downloaded it. It is in my phone. I have not listened to it yet.
It's so great. Just because he's still like a kid at heart. You know what I mean?
Everything he talks about. He's like, I just watched the Boris Karloff documentary on Shudder. And he's in that, and he just keeps saying they literally use the same soundbite twice, where he's just like, "Frankenstein is my religion," and it's just
we keep going back and forth. But I got to tell you, one of my favorite fucking movies of all time, based on a novel, I believe, but it's really just 2 people talking, is Gods and Monsters. I don't know if you've seen this movie.
Yes, with Brandon Fraser and Ian McKellen.
I've seen that movie probably 20 times, listened to it probably 10 or 15 times. That is an exquisite, beautiful. It sure is. It sure is. Movie. Yes. And I'll tell you something else. That dude, you look at The Invisible Man, you look at Old Dark. By the way, Invisible fucking Man is a fucking masterpiece. I just watched it for the first time. I just watched it 6 months ago. It blew my fucking. I've never seen it before.
You want to know something?
Blew my fucking mind.
I too watched it for the first time. I bought a box set on Amazon. I think it's very cheap. For $24, you can get the original films. They're scanned at 4K. I mean, these things look gorgeous, like just Boner Jams 2003. So the atmosphere, yes. Dracula, Wolfman.
But not just the atmosphere, the Invisible Man. That's why,
actually had a story, like a real substance to the story, Invisible Man. A lot of substance in there.
Oh my God! But also, it's a mad egomaniacal fucking lunatic. That's governing what he's doing. The thing about Blumhouse's Invisible Man that came out a few years ago.
Did you like it?
Well, I don't like it as the Invisible Man because I'm like, fuck that. Like, call it something else. Just because it's just it has no ties to it's not connected to the original at all. I mean, I guess.
They're trying to like sort of like update. They're trying to do.
I'm all for that. I'm all for making it I'm all for making it modern and making it a woman being terrorized and victimized or whatever by this madman lunatic. But there was something about. I thought the guy who played the Invisible Man, and I thought the fact that he had no personality, is.
Thank you, Riot. Thank you, riotstickers.com, everybody. Appreciate it. Sorry, I didn't need to cut you off, Onur. Go ahead.
That's okay. I don't want to shit on the Invisible Man. It was fine. It's just like when a movie gets critically praised so much, and it happens all the time now, I feel like these movies are not as great as all the critical accolades. It's my big problem.
I will tell you this. I absolutely, because here's the thing. There's nothing better than when you take something that is old or tried and true, like Frankenstein. People are like, "Oh, I'm so tired of Frankenstein." You could do fucking Frankenstein over and over and over again. Like we were talking about Depraved, and the idea, and people don't realize from you look at it from the angle of Depraved, it becomes a body horror film. The notion of being stitched together of dead people. In the case of the Invisible Woman and in The Invisible Man, and the idea of gaslighting, that they're trying to do something with gaslighting, which is very, gaslighting and, the whole, toxic and, misogyny, yada, 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 that whole trip. They're infusing this current issue and using Universal's The Invisible Man to do it. And I'm going, oh, ooh, even if it's not perfect, even if it doesn't tick every single box, give me every single Universal horror film. Like it captured my imagination. I'm like, okay, now do it. And it's like, yeah, he's using a suit, which is kind of goofy, but like my biggest issue with it is that it falls apart once again. And this is what happens with movies. And listen, I have only made one feature length narrative film, and I didn't even get to shoot 35% of the script, and the movie came out that it. So I'm not one to talk. I just want to point that out. That
we know it's okay, but here's the thing: I want a little bit of wit with my fucking horror. I want a sense of fucking humor.
It also it falls apart. It falls apart at the end. It does. The ending falls apart.
I mean, yeah. I mean, sure it does. I felt like the whole thing, though. I'm just watching and I'm thinking, really, this is what everybody's going on around. But that's what it is for me. Every movie I see now, where 96%, 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, I'm like, I'm expecting the movie to be great, and if it's good, I'm like, okay, it's not that fucking good because it's supposed to be fucking great. I gotta say this, remake, take new themes, make them current. That's so great, but just I don't want to be bored, and give me some fucking wit. Give me a sense of humor.
To give us a reason. You know, it's like a cover song. If you're going to cover a song, make it your own. Do something great with it.
Frank Well or James Well? Who was the director? James Well had a fucking sense of humor. He was a fucking visionary. He's like, I love the stuff in, the movie May.
Yes, I do. I do consider, Josh, I do consider it to be a Frankenstein film. Have you seen May?
I think what's the girl's name who plays May?
I don't remember her name, but that's Lucky McKee. And
McKee.
I do. Yes. What were you saying though? Go back to what you were saying before.
But what is she? I saw the movie. I can't quite remember. What does she do in the movie? What's
she's the star? She's like an outsider who basically like doesn't get along with the world. The comedy, there is humor. Talking about what you just said, give me like some humor, levity. There's very dry humor in it, and basically I don't want to spoil it. You've seen it, right?
I've seen it. I remember, again, it's the dickhead thing where
Angela Bettis is her name.
She ended up playing Carrie, right? And I thought she was fantastic.
Right. She was in Carrie.
Interesting. But I remember Roger Ebert gave it a 4-star review. I remember when May came out, and he was comparing it.
She makes a Frankenstein.
He was comparing it to like Halloween, like the brilliance of Halloween. And I remember reading Roger Ebert's review, who I respect, and thinking, really? It's that fucking good? I remember watching it again, being an asshole.
Watch it again, dude. Watch it again.
And it really works.
It first of all, it definitely holds up.
Yeah,
it really works. And I'll tell you something. Just for that, I don't even want to say what the last frame is because you probably don't remember what it is. And it really just ties. Talk about like how your last frame, we were just talking about how movies fall apart in the last 5% or whatever. Like this is a movie that like basically makes, when like that ending or that frame or the movie goes to a certain place and suddenly everything that came before it that you're uncertain about, suddenly it's like the finest, like most delicious steak you ever chewed on because you're going, not like everything sort of like lines up, and May does that. That's why everybody loves May so much, because it does that in the very last frame. And it's like a slow build. You got to see it. I think it is absolutely a Frankenstein film, 150%. But what were you talking about before that?
Finishing Daniel Krause, Guillermo del Toro, Shape of Water, and then Daniel making books, and then writing books now. And just
I have a question for you.
If you're a Romero fan and you like prose and you like horror fiction, you should check out The Living Dead by Daniel Krause. Any of his books are fantastic.
We're slowly landing this airplane. We're engaging our final descent. I want to thank Onur so much for giving us so much of his time, and just like this is like I love conversations like this. I love film talking conversations where you have a good conversationalist that can really just knows how to ping pong conversation back and forth, a nice tennis racket. It's wonderful. It's really, really wonderful. We're getting some people watching, which is nice. I want to ask you, have you seen the new Nightmare Alley? And if you did, what did you think of it? And have you seen the original? And blah 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 blah.
I haven't seen it yet. No. I really, really want to see it. And the original had Terrence Powers, right? I mean,
Tyrone Powers. Yes,
Tyrone Powers is on Criterion Collection. I got my friend Ariel Cavusi, who I'm currently raising money for a movie that she's directing called The Next Big One. She wanted me to mention it, and I always want to talk. It's one of the things I'm doing that I'm very proud of right now.
Please talk.
I'm producing a movie from Ariel Cavusi, but she has Criterion Collection, and she when we watch movies and we hang hang out, like that has popped up several times, and the goal is to watch the original and to watch Guillermo del Toro, who's fucking amazing and everything.
You're gonna love it. You are going to love. You are. I personally. So I think Nightmare Alley is the second in a trilogy of masterpieces. In that, well, here's the thing. It's so weird because The Shape of Water is like it's sort of like in two different GDT trilogies, because Pan's Labyrinth. And then the second one in like the fairy tale trilogy is The Shape of Water. And I feel like he hasn't made that third one yet.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Shape of Water goes hand in hand with Nightmare Alley.
Oh, interesting.
As well. Even though it's maybe because they're both period pieces, but like, and Shape of Water has fantastical elements in it. But like Nightmare Alley, first of all, I think I'm so glad it was nominated for a Best Picture. Like, if it wins it's not, but if it does, like, it's so deserving of it. And it's just a testament to how brilliant he is of a filmmaker. He crafted, and you were talking before about going into a dark movie theater. And here's the thing. I'll tell you, I was feeling fucking depressed as fuck last December. I was just having, sometimes I get like chemically imbalanced and I just cannot think straight. And I went, it was the first time since COVID, or the second time since COVID, I slunk into a darkened movie theater by myself. It was empty. It was just me. And it was one of those reclinable seats sort of situations. And I had snacks and the lights darkened and I was projected into the world of Nightmare Alley for 2.5 hours. Beautiful. And I'll tell you, it was just what an experience. And I'll tell you, it's a masterpiece. And I think it's one of his best films he's ever made. And I hope it wins an Oscar, truly. And I want to ask you this question, because you were talking about the dark atmosphere of a movie theater. You know how sometimes there are some movies and people go, oh, it lost, the film lost me. Did you ever see The Bad Batch by the girl who did A Girl Who Walks Alone at Night? People really fucking hated this movie. People hated this movie. I loved it. Loved it. And there's that section in the middle where she starts there's like the hallucination scene, and it just goes on and on and on. But I did not mind, and the reason why I did not mind is because when you see a film in its proper venue, if you can watch it in a big darkened movie theater, quiet
movie theater. I did not see it in those circumstances. I saw it outdoors where it was loud and it was not good audio. It was not a good situation. But that's it. Every movie plays better that way. That's the way every movie should be viewed. When I see a movie in the movie theater like that under those circumstances, it's funny. I like being in a movie theater by myself because I get anxiety because people pull out their cell phones and they ruin the experience for me. But when I am in a movie theater and it's completely packed full of people and they are quiet and they're respectful, that's to me the ideal way to watch me. I don't know what it is about the shared experience when people are respectful. I get so misanthropic and I get so angry when people are not respectful of the cathedral of the movie theater.
It is a cathedral. Total cathedral.
It's a
church. But
fucking church.
Wait. But I'm going to be the devil's advocate slightly. First of all, you need to go to Alamo Draft Houses where the culture.
Oh, I know. Of course,
their culture is great.
I love that.
I have the season pass. That's where I try to see all my movies there. But here's my thing, my devil's advocate thing, real quick. You just called it a cathedral, a church, or whatever, and I agree with you. I am with you 110%. But sometimes in churches, depending on the type of church, and I'm a Jew, I don't know much about churches per se, but I do know that there is all sorts of different. There's also all sorts of different flavors of church, and there are some church, like you go to the South, and everybody, their version of church is clapping 100%. And shouting. And so there are some movies where the atmosphere where you are meant to, and you see this at film festivals all the time, like when something plays really well at a fest and everybody's hooting and hollering and going wild. So it depends. It depends on the situation.
It all depends on the situation, without a doubt, of course. I would go in there if everybody's having a great time and everyone is aware and there's an agreed upon, there's an agreed upon festival like setting for it. Mm-hmm. I'm all about it. I've never really been to a lot of participatory movies where people are yelling and laughing at the screen, but I've definitely, I guess that's not true. What's the James
You've done Franco? Rocky Horror? Have you done Rocky Horror Picture Show?
I haven't done Rocky Horror, but I did The Fucking Room. What was the movie that Franco made about The Room? But it wasn't The Room.
The Disaster Artist, which is based on the book.
I saw that in a fucking crowded theater, and people were having a fucking blast.
Have you seen The Room? Have you done The Room?
I haven't even seen The Room. No, I haven't seen The Room.
You have to do, okay, two things. One, you absolutely have to do Rocky Horror at midnight. And New York City is I used to go to New York every Halloween. I go to Chelsea Cineplex right on Chelsea and Chelsea and 23rd or whatever. They always do Rocky Horror.
Oh, they do?
Yeah. Dude. All the time. You have to go. You have to experience Rocky Horror at midnight. That's number one. And number two, the Room has done the exact same thing as Rocky Horror, where people shout things. It is a cinematic experience unlike anything else, where it's the exact opposite, where you are not supposed to watch the movie quietly. You're supposed to yell things at the screen, and people are live writing in the movie theater. Imagine you're sitting there and people are creatively placing one-liners and various different things and shouting out various different things, some of which are pre-scripted because that's part of the tradition that's been passed down, but some of which, because some people are just on the fly improvisational writers who are just literally writing the movie. It's like watching a De Palma film where De Palma splits the screen in half and then you as the audience have to edit yourself. You're doing the editing by choosing where to go. It's the same sort of thing. It's like this extra dimensional layer of the cinematic experience.
Oh, that's beautiful. So how many hours a day would you say that you're watching? Do you watch a movie today, or how many movies will you watch this week?
Okay, so I'm on Letterboxd and I started tracking this stuff. I try to watch movies. Like for me, it's a never ending. It's like I have two rules. My goal, the precedent I set for myself is to try and watch something that I've never seen before. That doesn't mean I don't watch things over and over again. Of course I do, but there are only so many years I have on this earth, and I'm not going to get to see every film ever made. And so for me, my goal is to always watch something new that I have never seen before. And during the month of Halloween, because I'm a horror guy, I do something. This is batshit insanity. I do 31 movies in 31 days. That's what I started in 2015. Now I still do the 31 days, but it's as many movies as I can physically watch from October 1st to October 31st. And I log them. And last year I went really crazy and I did a video review for each film and uploaded it to YouTube. And I was only able to do 31 movies. My best record, I did 62 films in 31 days the year prior, which is my personal best. And I always, sometimes I'll go to like an old favorite or a comfort blanket, but like I always try to watch something that I have not seen before. And it's just, I'm voracious, dude. I'm like, and it's like, I love this stuff, man. I live it. I breathe it. It's just my favorite thing in the world. So yes. And when I had that season pass, because there's the thing, if you're paying $20 a month at the Alamo Drafthouse, which is what I was doing, if you watch two movies, then the
pays for that month.
Pays for it that month.
Absolutely.
And so I live 7 minutes away from an Alamo Drafthouse. So I was going to the movies sometimes 4 or 5 times a month. And I was watching, and the best part was we had a great film programmer. So we're seeing like stuff like Necromantic is playing, or I saw a fucking Eraserhead in 35 at midnight. Awesome. Just like whatever we saw. They played Female Trouble. They were doing double features. They had the Blob 58 with the Blob 88.
Fuck yeah.
They had the Fly. Man. They had the Fly 56 with the Fly 86.
Wow.
Like on Halloween night, we had the 4K Janus Criterion remaster of Night of the Living Dead with Dead Alive, Peter Jackson's Dead Alive on 35. And they had big bowls of trick or treat candy, and you could just take as much as you want. You put it in your bag and you just go into the theater and just it's the best.
Oh man,
dude.
see, you're connecting to that childlike wonder of like when you loved it as a child, which is still great. I feel like I've lost that a little bit. I want to get that back. Did you ever go to the Somerville Theater in Boston? Have you ever been there? They do this like 24. I think it's called the Somerville Theater. They do like this 24-hour. They used to do a 24-hour movie marathon where people would go in
Chicago, the Massacre.
Do they do that in Chicago? I never heard of that before.
The Music Box Theater does the Massacre, which my friend put on for years and years and years, and it's 24 hours of horror movies. You go in there, and I did it. And he's like, "Hey, what do you want to play?" He's like, "What do you want to play? You got anything that, get my hands on?" I was like, "Can you get Phantom of the Paradise by Brian De Palma?"
Oh yeah.
He got Phantom of the and this was like 2008. And I was like, it was just I felt like it was very hard to get a print in 2008 of Phantom of the Paradise. And he found one. And so that played at like 1:00 in the morning. And I'm like making out with this chick. Like we're like lying down in between the friggin' seats, because everybody brings pillows. And so you're just like kind of like crashing out in the movie theater, and fucking what's his face is on the Phantom is on the screen going, "Swan," and it's just like, it's the best, dude.
You need to get Jay Morong, my friend Jay Morong, who's the programmer of the Charlotte Film Festival down in Charlotte. He's also a drama professor at one of the colleges down there. You need to get him on the show, because you guys could talk.
I would love to. Put me in touch, please.
Because he's erudite like you. Like, that's one thing. You're a filmmaker, and you want to make movies, but you're also erudite about the creators and about
I love all of it. I love all of it. I
think that's great. Filmic efficient. I wish I was a film intellectual. I wish I was a film, like, I love movies. I love watching movies.
Dude, you definitely are, man. You have such you have filmic language. You've been able to trade back and forth with me this whole time.
Here, very limited. If we talked for another 30 minutes, it would be dry. The well would run dry. Jay Morong is like you. You guys would be able to talk film history and also contemporary movies.
Put me in touch. I'm down.
I'll connect you to him. He's just
cool.
Really, really great, really, really intelligent. Just a really, really fun, sweet dude. Midnight movies die at the hands of video is what they're saying. Yeah, I miss. I miss. The cell phone has taken me out of the film viewing experience in theaters. I used to go to the movie theater to relax, to feel comfort, to escape. Like, we get brought in. I still can't remember how it happened. Accidental movies that are accidentally bad are amazing, right? I watched a movie just recently on Shudder. Fucking A, Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker. Have you heard?
It's in my queue. I love Shudder, by the way. It's like the
Shudder's
best.
Fucking so amazing,
good.
Right?
So
Isn't
amazing.
It great?
Yeah.
But going back, I fucking lost I didn't lose my train of thought. I'm just going to move on real quickly. Going really quickly back to movies like The Invisible Man, and it's great they're being made, and they're well made, and they're contemporary. But I have a problem with film criticism, and I think maybe it's starting to correct itself now, is this over-adulation, or the fact that all these critics are only reviewing movies that they like, and they're not really reviewing movies that they hate. And they've taken this nice guy approach, or nice person approach, where they're not shitting on movies like they used to, because film is subjective. You should be able to shit on a movie. If you had an adverse reaction to a film, be vocal about it. Let's have fun. Now, I think a movie like The Invisible Man, or even fucking Jordan Peele's fucking movies, they shouldn't be at 96%, 98%. I don't think any fucking movie should be. I like movies like David Gordon Green's Halloween Kills, that took a lot of fucking chances, and that some people fucking hated, and some people really fucking loved, and it's at 50% at Rotten Tomatoes, which is where it should be. It should be divisive. Great art, to me, is supposed to be divisive. And This idea that everyone's just agreeing on something, and I guess Invisible Man, to me, it's a safe fucking movie. It didn't take any risks. And something that's at 96% should be embraced for the chances that it took, of being really novel and singular. And maybe I'm wrong about it. I could be wrong. I should watch it again. But Jay and I watched The Invisible Man at the Somerville Theater in Boston, and we walked out. We're just like, that's it. That's the movie that we saw. That's the movie that everybody's talking about. It's so fucking brilliant. I don't know. At the end of the day, I used to hate everything that I watched, and I still kind of do. But here's the thing: I've learned to, with my criticism, not critique a movie for what it didn't want. It didn't do what I wanted it to do, which I think is the wrong way to critique a film, because it didn't do what I wanted to do. I've learned to not. I've learned not to fucking criticize a film for that reason. And I've learned to appreciate what it's trying to do a little bit more. And I've learned to, I'm just not as critical anymore. I guess because we're living in a society, we're living in a time now where the kind of the idea is, let's try to be nice to each other. And one of the casualties of that is, I think, harsh criticism, or, the kind that Rex Reed used to do, or maybe still does.
Rex Reed.
Completely rip something apart.
You know what it is? I'll tell you what it is. And this has been for me, and I totally know what you're saying. Everything, it's like the status quo currently is, if you have nothing nice to say, then don't say anything at all. And you know, I have a lot of Rachmaninoff for lots of films and filmmakers, even the bad ones, because, you know, again, like I think about from the other side of trying to, because when you're making a movie, good or bad, it's like you're taking something that's in your head or in somebody else's head, and you're literally willing something into existence. That's what you're doing. You are willing imagination into a 2D sort of way that people are going to take in, and you're sharing ideas, and like it's this multimedia approach. It's all of these things combined. It's music, it's art, it's photography, it's acting, it's theater, it's all of these different mediums combining. So it's like like I guess I when I approach a film, like in general, like a perfect example, here's my thought is, if I can't talk about it critically, like I will never say a film sucks. I will just never do it. I just don't do it. If I don't like a film, or I don't like pieces of a film, I will explain why that is. I'll say it didn't sit well with me, and here's why, or it didn't, as we've been doing this whole time. This didn't land, and here's why it didn't land, and blah blah blah.
That's a very
like
fair, astute way
it's
of,
not so it's like no film should be what's it called, immune to criticism. But I know I'm getting botted. Just, do I have a mod? Riot, you're a mod in the chat. Can you get rid of the bot, please? No film should be above criticism, but at the same time, I feel like maybe there's some tact. And, you know, again, part of it, it's kind of like bread and circuses, right? Like we want blood. We want, or that's what it used to be about. It's like taking a film and stabbing it with a spear and ripping it open and seeing all the blood drenched out. But that has led to such, and again, I hate using, there's certain words. I hate using the word woke. I hate using the word toxic, these overused, ridiculous words. However, I'm going to use, with that disclaimer that I just provided, I am going to use the word toxic because it just seems, thank you, JD, for destroying, oh, thank you, Riot, whoever did it. I am going to use the word toxic because I feel like it does represent what I'm trying to say. It's mutated onto the internet in this super toxic way where anonymous people, at least with film critics, they put their name by the criticism. Even, you know, Egbert, like he had his face, Siskel and what's his face, they were on the TV and they're like telling you, I didn't like this film. I thought it was, you know, and like they're there and they're saying it. And you have these spineless weasels that just tear things down for no good reason. And, you know, again,
trolling, just trolls at the end of
trolling.
the day.
And, you know, I look at, you know, Kevin Smith is one of my film fathers. I have a lot of film fathers. He's one of my film fathers. I love that man. And, you know, and he doesn't make, and some of his, I have plenty of criticism to give to his films for sure. But I have also been listening to his podcast since 2007, since the very beginning. I've been with him. I've been with him this whole time. And I have listened to so many things that he said. And one thing that I really have sort of embraced what he said, he talks about, like, you know, it costs $0 to encourage an artist or encourage to be somewhat to encourage someone to be creative. Put your energy into that. If you don't like something, it's okay not to like something, but like, don't tear down, build up. And even if something you don't like, build it up as you tear it down. I really liked the beginning. It really sort of like I was grabbed, or I really like this premise. I really liked, find the thing. I try to, I'm going to bring it back to me, speaking in I statements. I try to find the thing that I did like or that I did tolerate. And then I use that as the anchor to then issue some sort of criticism. And I like try to think of constructive, or I try to think of ways that maybe it might have could have played out, that you know, the exact thing that you were talking about, like where I wish it would have gone. But I never use the word. If I see a video on YouTube and it says why Star Wars sucks, I won't even watch it. I just don't want to see it. I don't care.
It is a choice. I mean, it's a choice. It's a deliberate choice to say, look, let me embrace the things constructively in a way that's
right.
Yeah, that's not trolling, basically. I feel like you could do that with any movie. You could give it a bad review and a great review. You could be a vicious review and rip it apart, or you could be extremely sweet and treat it like it's an 8th grader with a disability who's trying to put together their first movie. I mean, you could approach everything that way. And it's just a choice about what you want to be. Do you want to be an asshole for the benefit of your reader? Because I love the bad guy. I love assholes in movies. I love hearing in movies people being mean, but in real life it's different. It's not the same. Being mean in real life just is like, off-putting.
here's the
And that's
flip
what I
side.
do like about the culture that we're in, is that there is the idea behind it is actually really beautiful and humane. Let's not, the idea of words having an impact on someone's emotional well-being, and if their emotions are hurt, that could cripple them in some way. That is like physical harm. I used to think, how can you sit there and say words are the same as physical harm? But emotions are tied to your body's stress. You could be.
I was about to
stressed out
say,
because
it's not the words. What it is, it's not the words. It's the words going to your ear, and then your brain processes them, and then your brain releases certain chemicals and hormones or whatever that then affect you.
Yeah.
So it's not the words, but it's the way the words have a polluting effect physically on one's being. So it does, there is some sort of there's definitely, it's definitely there. But like, again,
a real connection that I used to think for years. I thought, oh my God, they're trying to take away the idea of anger or hostility. We have a real need for that. But at the end of the day, a lot of just being mean is whatever. It's unnecessary, and it's coming from a barbaric fucking place. It's coming from a fucking base, pathetic place, and I don't know. And the connect. Anyways, I'm rambling now. Go ahead.
No. You bring up a great point. And again, like everything does have its place. And if you can find a way, if one can find a way to sort of say what they want to say, because here's the thing. Because at the end of the day, what ends up happening? Are you being you're being honest, or you're being dishonest for the sake of other people's feelings? Are you not being truthful about what your feelings and what you feel? Because again, isn't film criticism? I don't know. Is it an art form in and of itself? Is it like it's this literary thing? Does that make it an art form in the same way that if you're writing anything, is writing in general is considered an art form? So if
you see it that way, and if you put that much effort into making it the best review ever, I think a film review absolutely can be an art form if you've chosen to make it an art form.
Right.
You ever heard of the Talk House? It's this.
I know Talk House. Oh yeah, for sure.
I wrote a piece about how the critic, the art of the critic, has a role, probably even more important than the film's role, because the critic legitimizes the value of a movie. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
it validates and venerates, and what it does is it's like the well, I don't know, this is a terrible metaphor. Actually, I was going to say it's the canary in the coal mine, but it's like it's the thing that signifies whether people should spend their precious time to go and check it out.
Yeah. People seem to have a lot of precious time on their hands these days. I mean, if you think about the idea, again, back to binge watching, it's like where, people have a lot of time to which is great. I think it's great. People are getting enjoyment out of whatever they want to do. That's fan-fucking-tastic. But yeah,
that's the paradox. That is truly, you brought that up earlier. This is a paradox. This idea of, and I do it. I personally do it. I like it. You know what it is? It's this notion of like having like this. It's obviously it's a finite resource, but there's just so much of it, and you just get to sit. And you know what it is? You get to be a glutton. Is it not part of human nature to be gluttonous sometimes, or to be voracious in your appetites, whatever they may be, whether it's like marathoning podcasts, or if maybe you like to eat food, or maybe you drink too much, or maybe you smoke too much, or in some cases it's like I want to escape from the world and I want to just sit on my bed and watch 10 episodes of this show and just go through this experience that I'm not even going to remember, because no one can cram 10 hours of story and then like remember. It's like it gets put in, if it's like a computer, your short-term memory cache, like it goes in there, but then it gets deleted so quickly afterwards, and you only remember like the broad strokes. So it's like you don't even remember what you watched, you just remember whether you liked it or hated it. That was really good. Because like here's the thing. I loved Dexter season 4 with the Trinity Killer. It was one of the best seasons of television I've ever seen. Now, if you say, hey, what happens? I'd be like, I don't know. I watched it in 2009. I only remember that I liked it so much and that it's the best season of television. Now, if you ask me about like a film that I really like, I will tell you every fucking, a film that I've seen like 100,000 times over and over and over again. I'll tell you about every fucking beat of that film and the meaning behind it and why. And it's just interesting how, and yes, there's time, the time, like the TRT total running time is different in that kind of way. But
so you've seen Day of the Dead several times then to talk about the specifics you think and said about Day of the Dead.
I've seen Day of the Dead many times. I've seen Dawn of the Dead 1,000 times. Night of the Living Dead, I have watched so many times. I first saw it 26 years ago, 27 years ago. I have watched Night of the Living Dead so many times. The film that I've watched probably more times than the other film, and when people ask me what is your favorite film of all time, like I don't have one. Who has a favorite film of all time? It's like really hard. I love all films, but
and it kind of changes too,
it changes, it evolves. Like, but if like gun to my head, or I'm on a quiz or a survey, like what is your favorite film? Oh, hey Jeff, what is your favorite film? For simplicity's sake, and it's true from the bottom of my heart, I believe this, I always say Night of the Living Dead is my hands down favorite film of all time, for all that we were talking about earlier, for all those reasons and more, for the fact that I can watch this movie that's 50 years old and it feels like it was made fucking yesterday with everything that's happening in the world. That's how good that fucking ending is. So fucking like just guttural and guts you and kills you.
I remember in the 80s, man, I remember watching MTV, and it was like I think it was in October of 1988 or 87. I can't remember the year. Maybe it was 84. Maybe I was fucking 11 or 12 years old. And that movie fucking came on Night of the Living Dead on fucking MTV, and they showed it, and there was nudity, and it traumatized me slightly. It was just like, what the fuck is this? I just remember one of those film experiences. Once upon a time, I liked Ghost Dad, not so much now. It's funny. Is it because of Cosby? Is it because of what we know about Cosby, or is it because the movie hasn't aged well? What's the reason for that?
I enjoyed Ghost Dad when I saw it when it first came out. It was okay, whatever.
Is it? But it was critically panned, right? Everybody said it was.
It was totally
terrible.
panned. But I saw it. I was born in '85, and I saw it whenever it came out.
Did Sidney Poitier direct that?
No,
Sidney Poitier directed some kind of Cosby movie. Who directed Ghost Dad?
I'm going to find out for you right now. Keep talking. Talk about what you're talking about.
A really bad like Cosby movie, and I was like, or maybe I just misheard that incorrectly. Halloween in the 70s, of course, traumatized. I mean, that's one of my favorite movies of all time, Halloween. If you're in
question, have you ever done this? This is a fun thing to do with films that you've seen a million times over. I have started, and someone turned me on to this. If you watch the 6th sequel of Friday the 13th, Jason Part 6, Jason Lives, you desaturate your TV and watch it in black and white. It is a 1940s.
That director Universal. Is very influenced by the James Well years.
And if you fucking watch Jason Lives Part 6 in black and white, that opening with
I never thought about, of course, the cemetery, the 10-minute brilliant fucking opening.
Yes. And I'll tell you something.
You get the sense.
You get all of the shadows, everything, all that atmosphere we were talking about earlier. It's all there. The movie is pregnant with it, but it only reveals itself when you desaturate.
Dude, I can't remember. I think it was. Have you seen that 6-hour documentary on Shudder, Memories from Crystal Lake or whatever?
I have not.
It's fucking amazing. If you're a Friday the 13th fan, it's fucking
I'm not
incredible.
really. I am not. Here's the thing. I am not so much a slasher guy. I do have a respect for the original Halloween. However, right next to Jaws, because Jaws is my Jaws. Jurassic Park is also my Jaws for my generation. Scream is my Halloween. Sidney Prescott is my Laurie Strode.
Yeah, sure.
So I never really I have of course I have an affinity for the 80s slashers, but I never, I don't they don't connect with me the way. I'll tell you, what connects with what really fucking does it for me, and go back to saying to what the film that I've seen more times than any other film in the history of the world. I'm pretty sure I have seen The Return of the Living Dead, written and directed by Dan O'Bannon, who wrote Alien. I've seen that so many fucking times. There have been times where I have put that movie on, and then as soon as it's over, I put it on again with the commentary, and then I switch over the commentary tracks and I watch the second commentary. We're actually reading on this channel. We're doing the Return of the Living Dead novelization. We do 2 chapters. I do like an audiobook thing on here. So I'm doing 2 chapters because the book is very different from the novelization is different. And the irony is it's written by John Russo, who is the screenwriter of Night of the Living Dead. So the
Wow,
screenwriter of
interesting.
Night of the Living Dead he wrote a sequel to Night of the Living Dead called Return of the Living Dead, separate from Dawn of the Dead. Then that got bought up by this guy Tom Fox, who then hired Dan O'Bannon after Toby Hooper left. Dan O'Bannon does a page 1 rewrite, and that script is then rewritten as a novelization by John Russo, completing the circle.
Wow. Oh, that's fascinating. It sounds like you're into horror. Your horror comedy is your jam. You like
you know,
horror
here's
comedy.
the thing though. Here's the thing. And you know, you were talking about like you as a director will appreciate this. And I don't know if you've seen Reanimator, right? Reanimator falls into this. Okay. So Reanimator falls into this. Return of the Living Dead falls into this. These are movies where the comedy is so it's so delicate and precious in the sense that the actors are playing it so straight. When you watch a Return of the Living Dead, James Cameron, who's a fantastic character actor, and Clu Gallagher, and all those guys, Tom Matthews, who's also in Jason Lives, he plays Tommy Jarvis. They are all playing it. A, they're playing it super straight. B, Dan O'Bannon, who was a first-time director, all of his shots, so many of those shots, they had 2 weeks of rehearsal on that film, and every single one of those shots with all the kids, there's no coverage. They're all master shots. They're all standing there in the same fucking, it's everything we were just talking about. And I had the John Penny, who was the co-editor and also wrote the screenplay for Return of the Living Dead Part 3. I had him on the show. And I was asking him, I'm like, because he was the assistant editor. I'm like, so tell me, like, what the fuck was it like looking at those rushes? Because when you watch the film, and the opening shot is like, it's a oneer. It's like a straight oneer. I never noticed. I was like, wait a minute, the camera's not cutting. They're doing like tracking dolly motion, like motion shots through the various parts of the medical supply warehouse. And he's going, yeah, we were shitting our pants because he was not shooting any coverage. We didn't know if the film was going to cut together, but it does. And what makes the film work so well is A, the characters are playing it so straight, and that informs the comedy. That pulls the comedy. The situation is so ridiculous, and the tone is so serious that you can't help but laugh. As Mick Garris once said, the comedy is so red that it's black, and the actors are all playing off each other in these big, beautiful master shots. There's just no, like, there's close-ups and stuff, but the coverage is minimal, and they're like going, is this going to cut together? What is he doing? And talk about a guy who was really pushy and really like an asshole. He only directed one other film, The Resurrection, in 1990 with Chris Sarandon. This was a guy who was just like, who was a total pushy asshole who didn't quite know what he was doing on his first film, and yet at the same time delivered a masterpiece and a script. You're talking about how like the script needs to be so good. What makes Return of the Living Dead so good, it's not the way that it's shot per se. It's not necessarily that it looks so good. It is the fact that every single scene, and I sat there in awe watching this film as a writer, as an amateur writer, someone who's trying to write his own shit. And I sit there and I go, I watch how each scene informs the next scene. It's building towards something. There's cause and effect in every single scene. It's not just because you could be a filmmaker, and I did this in my first film, where you just do, oh, it's art. Yeah, just put something out there, static shot of it. Like, you could just do that, or literally every scene is informing the next scene, which is informing the next scene, which is informing the next scene. And he's building towards this thing. And you're just going, where the fuck is this movie going to go? Because it's just getting too big, even for its own weight. And what does he do? He blows it all up. He kills everybody with a fucking atom bomb. And it works. So, because you're thinking, where is the movie going to go? How does he tie it up? He goes, Dan O'Bannon, I'm just pretending that he said this. He didn't actually say, I don't know where it goes. I'm just going to drop a bomb on everything. The end. And you're just like, yeah. You're like, you go, yeah, that's fucking great. And what works is that you almost have like these Laurel and Hardy, sort of like slapsticky scenes, but they're done super serious. And that's the same thing with Reanimator. It's the same thing with you, like Stuart Gordon is like head giving head. And it's like when you step back and think like, oh my God, this girl's dead father is holding the severed head, the reanimated severed head of his associate, and sticking it in the crotch of his daughter, his naked daughter, strapped down to a gurney. And you think for a second and go, wait a minute, they're saying it's head giving head.
Yeah.
It takes a super duper serious thing and makes it fucking hilarious.
Yeah. And just so perverted and just delightfully perverted, you know,
It's
which
great,
is great.
dude.
Yeah,
It is great, man. We had Brian Yuzna on the show too. That hasn't premiered yet. That was we talked for fucking 3 hours. Speaking of which, we have literally been talking for 2.5 hours.
I probably should wrap it up there. You know, Jeff, this has been a lot of fun, man. This has been a lot of fun.
Holy shit. I got to tell you, you really can spend it. You could talk a yarn. This was really great.
You can. I feel like I'm mentally sluggish tonight. You're fucking killing it. So
oh my God. One last movie. Tell me you have seen, this is getting brought up in the comments. This is why I love having the comments here when you do it live, because people bring stuff into the conversation. Bet you'd like Delamorte. Hell fucking yeah. I love Delamorte.
Yeah.
The Cemetery Man with Rupert Everett. I think it's the first or the second directorial credit for Michael Solvi, who's a disciple of Dario Argento. Phenomenal, based on
mid-90s.
Mid-90s, talking about the humor, romance, love, death, all of these things. Mm-hmm. It's an art house film, an Italian art house film that's also like by way of Dead Alive, Peter Jackson's Dead Alive.
Yeah,
fucking genius. Listen. I have all of Onur's links in the comments. Please check, follow him on Twitter, follow him on Instagram. Check out, he has a website. We didn't even talk about his art. This dude is an artist, man. I mean, his art is really trippy and out there and awesome. Go check it out. What is it's Simeon? I'm going to butcher it. What is it?
SimeonNation.com. Simeon Nation. Yeah.
Simeon Nation. Yeah. It's SimeonNation.com. And in addition, and I didn't even know that you made music. You're also a musician as well.
Yeah, that's kind of the one thing I don't like share. You know what I mean? I've got children's books out there and art out there and a lot of movies. The plan is to I've been writing music the last year. I've written that's very nice. I've been writing music and recording music a lot in the last year. So I think I am going to do an album at some point, but not for any not delusions of grandeur, just for
yourself.
For the artifact. You know what I mean? I believe
because you're an artist. Because you're an artist and you have to get it out. So that's awesome. And you're putting that, you're a Renaissance man who does all this fucking crazy shit. And again, super congratulations to just a dude who is just out there, doing shit. Follow him, check him out, watch his films where they are available. I'm sure a lot of them are streaming on VOD. Go check out justwatch.com, which is a legal way to check what streaming services Onur Tukel's films are legally streaming. So check out his work. Go see Catfight, especially. That's my recommendation. Summer of Blood is great, but go see Catfight.
That's on Netflix.
Is that on Netflix right now?
Netflix,
yeah. So you can watch that on Netflix. Catfight really just goes all it just goes places, man.
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate
it. Really great
man.
thing.
Thanks,
okay, we have a wonderful way of closing. And Onur, can you stick around for 3 minutes after? I have an end thing that plays. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. We had a great audience tonight. As we always say on the channel, peace and hair grease. Do you guys know about the Patreon? If not, please sign up for the Patreon. Onur, stick around. Peace, hair grease, Patreon.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's Jeff. So I've decided to make a Patreon. What is Patreon? I don't know how to define a Patreon. Let me look it up. Patreon is a membership platform that makes it very easy for creators to get paid for the things that they're already creating. I want to do it full time. I want this to be my full-time job. In my efforts to make that happen, I've set up this platform. Is it going to work? Is it going to be successful? I don't know, but I would rather try and crash and burn than not try at all. The goal is to create enough passive revenue so that I can continue to do this full-time, uninterrupted. Why? Because I love to do this. I love creating content. I love making videos. I love shooting films. I love doing podcasts. In case you couldn't tell, I love to talk and I never shut the fuck up. So right now I've kept the Patreon incredibly simple. There's 2 tiers, and that may change in the future. The Murdergram is a simple way to extend support for all of the hours and hours of free content on the channel for nothing more than $1. 38 cents goes to Patreon. What's $1.38, eh? It's less than a cup of coffee, but it's a great way that you can show support for very little effort. When you divide that $1.38 by the hours and hours and hours of time spent listening to this endless drivel of content, the dollar cost average works out. Next up is the YouTube Casualty for $6.66. The YouTube Casualty is loaded to the gills. Enjoy the archive ad-free, as well as ad-free early access to special docu-style podcast videos, music reaction commentaries, and the like, a month before they drop on YouTube, loaded with ads, I might add. You're also going to get exclusive content and behind-the-scenes content that is not available on YouTube or anywhere else. So you get to peek behind the veil. And believe me, there's a couple of choice pieces. Most of all, more than anything, whether you join the Patreon or not, I just want to thank each and every one of you that comes to the channel, that watches all the shows, that leaves comments, that participates, that subscribes. That's really the most important thing. This is just trying to find a way to earn a living as an artist. And with that, thank you for my TED Talk. Join the Patreon, because we need you!
66 cents.